After years of neglect, Illinois is finally getting its mojo back, and we're open for business.
Number two.
All right, everybody, we're ready. Your Ben Joravsky show for Thursday, May 30th is moments away. But before we get into that, like we always do about this time, we would like to thank the following unions for helping bring back the Ben Joravsky show. Ben, we're now on video, so.
Oh.
There you go. Say hi to. Oh, there you go. Give him a snapping point. That's good. All right, first up, the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, by the way, our guest today, Union Man Jeff Johnson, is with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Big thank you to those unions for jumping on board and bringing back the Ben Joravsky Show. And, of course, today's program is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Whoa, my. Give me 1 second. We'll start the show here. We were jamming out to some jazz. Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
Put the bong away.
Oh, sorry there. Bong away. Okay. All right. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Wednesday, May 30th, or Thursday, May 30th, rather. And live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, In These Times writer Miles Kampf-Lassin will join us. We welcome back Union Man Jeff Johnson, and it's the return of political strategist Candace Castillo. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, What are you doing with your hands?
Oregon.
Oh, that's Oregon. Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Oh So Sad Thursday. And here's why. So yesterday's city council meeting definitively answered the following question. Who is dumber, Chicago's aldermen or congressional Republicans in the age of Trump?
Congressional Republicans in the age of Trump.
And the answer? Dr. D was right. Congressional Republicans in the age of Trump. And now let me explain, D. Okay? Wasn't easy coming up with an answer to that difficult question. I thought about it long and hard. On one hand, this. On the other hand, that. Let me explain. For years, Chicago aldermen have blindly followed like lemmings off a cliff whatever miscreant Chicago voters saw fit to elect as their mayor. And let's face it, folks, you love electing miscreants as your mayor. What was that one guy's name? I forgot his name already. Rahm Daly, Rahm Daly.
Take a chill pill, man.
I knew I was just stalling while you pushed that button. I love you, Rahm. Where are you? I miss you already. Anyway, okay, back to aldermen. I'll cite some examples of what our aldermen have done following miscreants off a cliff. When, for instance, Mayor Daley said, I think it's a good idea to sell the parking meters, which are worth about $10 billion for $1 billion. I want you to do that. You all said, yes, sir, Mayor Daley, sir. Haven't used that line in a while, Hunty. And then when Rahm said, there's a lawsuit intended to overturn the parking meter deal and get back some of that money, but I want to take care of my corporate buddies. What do? I know. I'll destroy that lawsuit by renegotiating the deal and reaffirming it. And then what did the alderman say? Yes, sir, Mayor Rahm, sir. So here's a philosophical question. Under which mayor, Rahm or Daley, were the aldermen more pathetic? Rahm or Daley? Rahm? Where'd you get that music?
I don't know. I love it, though.
I love it, man. Ooh, Rahm or Daley? I think it's a tie anyway. It's a tie. But anyway, that was then. This is now. Yesterday, the Chicago City Council was faced with a decision. Should they line up behind Ed Burke, the all-powerful, once all-powerful, I should say, 14th Ward alderman? He used to be the finance chair, who is now facing federal indictment and has been discredited and nobody wants to go anywhere near him? Or should they line up behind Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was just elected with 75% of the vote? All right? So when faced with that decision, you know what the aldermen did, D? They discovered their inner Dan Biss. Yeah, you know how good at math Dan Biss is, huh?
Amazing.
I know, he's so good. And the aldermen are good, too. They went, one discredited alderman who is facing federal indictment, one newly elected mayor who's wildly popular and got 75% of the vote. 75% is much more than one. I'm going with Lightfoot. How about that, huh? Very smart. Good at math. Yeah, so they lined up with Lori yesterday. Boy, was that fun. We talked about it yesterday. The papers have had a field day with it ever since. Let's just read the great Fran Spielman's lead in My Beloved Bright One, home delivered every day. The headline, by the way, you know, I just have to say this about Sun-Times. I love their headlines, but I think, in my humble opinion, not that anybody, great front page, weed backers. We'll get into that one, what that means. Get it, D?
Wait.
Weed backers. Weed whackers.
Oh, okay.
Weed
Okay.
backers.
I'm feeling it.
And they're talking about the states that I don't know who writes these headlines, but he or she is a genius.
Give him a Pulitzer.
I know. Give him a Pulitzer. Give him a raise. And then this one, Lightfoot, no lightweight. Come on, that's pretty good. Lightfoot, no lightweight. Batters Burke and first council showdown. Just saying, everyone, in my humble opinion, instead of having Lightfoot, no lightweight in the little picture and the weed whackers in the big picture, you should have flipped it. I don't know, just saying. Okay? More people would have bought the paper. Who knows? I think I may be the only guy who actually still reads a newspaper. I love newspapers. Okay.
The Siskel and Ebert of newspapers.
I love them. Okay? They're so much better than phones. Anyway, here's what Fran Spielman, this is really good stuff. Here's her lead. Mayor Lori Lightfoot didn't just survive the first test of her city council. She humiliated and obliterated her political arch rival in the process. And it was all at the invitation of deposed Finance Committee Chair Ed Burke. Oh, yeah, humiliated, obliterated. Yes, indeed. And the alderman went along with it. They did a voice vote, Dave. That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
I am scared. I don't want to go on the record because Ed Burke still may be powerful. So we would just do the voice vote? Oh, all right. They did a voice vote.
It's now 3 voices who said no.
Yeah,
Yesterday we said it was 4.
It was 4.
It's now down to 3.
It's down to 3. Now that one of them was, I didn't say it, I swear. They're all like, no, Lori, it wasn't me.
It was 4. That 4th guy was the janitor.
Oh, it was the janitor. Ray Lopez was one of them. He's not backing down. What does Ricky Hendon say about Ray Lopez?
I believe the quote is, ooh, I hate Ray Lopez.
Yeah, something like that. The great Ricky Hendon. By the way, not now, but later, you might want to download that interview I did with Ricky Hendon, and it was very entertaining and informative. Anyway, all right. So they lined up behind Lori Lightfoot. Not that they're all of a sudden reformers. Not that they all of a sudden saw the light and realized that, guys like me were right all this long.
Saw the light. I see what you did there.
Yes. Well, I didn't even know I did that. I did that. I didn't even know I did it. Oh, that was really good. Folks, what they did was they did the math. One discredited alderman about to be indicted. 75% of the voters went with Lori. I'm going with Lori. And so but they were still so chicken, they did it on a voice vote. I don't want to go on the record. Can we just do the voice vote thing?
I'm scared.
It's like Ed Burke is this creature from the Black Lagoon who's going to come back. I remember you voting in the city. No, it wasn't me. Yeah, I swear I was one of those voice votes that said no.
Don't go in the basement.
Don't go in the basement. Oh, Ma's coming up this weekend, folks. Can't wait. Anyway, so city council, I've stopped making fun of you for at least a week because you guys know how to count. 75 is more than 1. Meanwhile, back in Washington, the Republicans lining up like lemmings, following Trump off the cliff, not paying any attention to the Mueller report, which clearly states that Donald Trump was up to no good, obstructing justice. Nope, I see nothing. I hear nothing. I am so afraid of a presidential tweet.
No collusion.
Dee, how would Donald Trump say it? Sad.
No collusion.
Sad. No collusion and sad. We got a great show today, everybody. Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed. We're going to be talking politics.
Wait, are we talking politics?
And politics.
Whoa.
Okay.
Shocker.
Miles Kampf-Lassin. This dude knows more about politics than anyone. From In These Times, you can talk national politics, local politics. So we're going to do national politics and local politics with Miles. And then at 2 o'clock, the union man, Jeff Johnson. All right, people, get your paper out, get your pencils out. Jeff Johnson knows more about taxes and pensions than anyone. We're taking a deep dive. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be a quiz, so pay attention.
Okay.
Take notes, all right?
I will.
And then 2:30, Candice Castillo, political strategist, the brains behind so many newly elected aldermen, all right? So we'll be talking about political. Candice also says she wants to dive in, not just local talk. She goes, Ben, I want to do a little Trump talk. You know me, D. I'm ready to talk Trump at the drop of a hat, okay?
No collusion.
Republicans, well, if he said it, it must be true, right? Anyway, I'm not going to say one word about the Chicago Tribune columnist in his column yesterday defending Trump. Not one word, okay?
Right. Yeah, right.
Get that
Give it time. Give it time.
The Tribune. Anyway, we have a great show today, but before we get into that political talk, the doctor with the news.
All right, everybody, it's the middle of the day. Let's talk about the national news happening this afternoon first. Yeah, I'm about 85 to 90% certain now that our president is a full-blown psychopath.
He sure is, man.
Good God.
Oh, God.
Only one day after the now former special counsel, Robert Mueller, said at a press conference that investigators could not conclude that he had not committed a crime, Donald Trump is now trashing Robert Mueller on Twitter. Thanks, but no thanks, Robert.
Yeah.
All right, let's read the tweets. There are a few here, so cue the ukulele, and we'll get down to it. What a time to be alive, huh, Ben Joravsky?
Oh, yeah. By the way, I love that ukulele song.
All right, here we go. Here's the tweet from President Trump. Well, there's quite a few. I say tweet, but there's like 3 here. So here we go.
the greatest presidential harassment in history. After spending $40 billion over 2 dark years.
Wait, wasn't it $35 billion
40.
yesterday? Okay, sorry, Donald.
$40 billion.
It went up $5 billion in one day.
No collusion. Over 2 dark years with unlimited access, people. Resources and cooperation.
Wait, billion or million?
Billion.
No, it's got to be million. They didn't spend billions.
It's billion.
All right, whatever.
Trust me.
Okay.
Maybe it is million. I don't know.
Yeah.
Highly conflicted Robert Mueller would have brought charges if he had anything, but there were no charges to bring.
Oh, he actually wrote that?
Yeah.
Oh, Mike.
Keeps going.
Russia, Russia, Russia.
He didn't say that, really?
Yeah.
He said Russia, Russia, Russia.
Yeah,
It's like a song.
Russia, Russia, Russia. That's all you heard at the beginning of this witch hunt hoax. And now Russia has disappeared because I had nothing to do with Russia helping me to get elected. It was a crime that didn't exist.
Wow.
So now the Dems and their partner, the fake news media, say he
Went on. the
Wait,
next
hold on.
tweet.
Just in the defense of the fake news media, Donald, there are people in the media who defend
I'm
you.
talking. The president's
sorry.
talking.
Tribune. You got. At least you got the Tribune support.
The president's
anyway, go
talking.
on. Oh, sorry.
The fake news media say he fought back against this phony crime that didn't exist.
Oh, okay.
This horrendous false accusation, and he shouldn't fight back. He should just sit back and take it. Could this be obstruction? No. Mueller didn't find obstruction either. Presidential harassment.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Time out.
workout.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
That was really well done, by the way. Folks, give a great job to Dr. D.
I don't know. I lost it there at the end.
If they found no obstruction, which they did find obstruction, but if they found no obstruction, why are you claiming harassment? If anything, you were vindicated. You should say vindication. You know, that you can't have it both ways. You can't have been cleared and be a victim. All right? I'm just pointing that out there. And by the way, they did find evidence obstruction. Here we go. I was telling Leah this just at the start of the show. I keep these old newspapers around for this very moment.
He's a weirdo, guys.
Here's the original New York Times coverage of the Mueller report. See all the redactions? What's in the redactions? They list, here we go, all the evidence of obstruction, including Trump tried to fire Mueller. Trump pushed his lawyer to deny the attempt to fire Mueller. Trump encouraged Paul Manafort not to cooperate with feds. Trump tried to gut the investigation. This would all constitute obstruction, folks. Trump urged Comey to drop Flynn investigation. Trump fired Comey. How about that one? He had fired the head of the FBI. You know what, D, I got to tell you, Republicans, they are really winning the dumber than the alderman race because they continue to. There's one Republican in America who will stand up to Trump right now. That's it. Justin Amash from Michigan. All the rest of them going right off the cliff.
Oh, by the way, it was 40 million.
Million. Yeah, 40 million. Not, I mean, it was 16 billion for the farmer, but I don't think it was 40 billion. So he actually wrote M million, not B billion.
No, it was the numbers. I just read it wrong.
Oh, that's okay. You know what?
I'm no Dan Biss. I'm glad you are. I'm glad you are, because me, no, not so much.
Did I tell
Community
you
college.
I took algebra in high school? Did I tell you that? Yeah, I took algebra, all right? Mm-hmm. Did very well in it. I think I got a C.
All right, so Trump also went on to tweet that Robert Mueller came to the Oval Office seeking to be named the director of the FBI. Trump told him no. The next day, he was named special counsel. And then there's the John McCain ship.
Oh, my God.
Today, President Trump confirmed that a warship named after his arch-Republican rival, the late Arizona Senator John McCain, was intentionally hidden from his view during Trump's visit to a naval base in Japan this week, saying someone had taken measures because, quote, they thought I didn't like him. That was enough to cause McCain's daughter, Meghan McCain, to take to Twitter and fire back at Trump, saying Trump is a child who will always be deeply threatened by the greatness of her dad's incredible life.
I agree with Meghan McCain 100% on that. Now, let me just break this down. I just want to make sure I understand this. It's going to help my Republican listeners, to their president, see what he's up to. So is Trump saying he had nothing to do with keeping the McCain ship kept hidden from his view?
Yeah, he had nothing to do with it. It was the other people.
It was somebody else. Mm-hmm. So that's his defense. My aides knew I'm a lunatic. I would have freaked out if I saw McCain, and so they did this without asking me. That's his defense.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. That's your president, Republicans. Stand by your man, I guess.
Like I said, what a time to be alive.
Yeah, what a time to be alive. So Meghan McCain said that. Mm-hmm. Was that on The View?
That was no, that was it was on Twitter. She tweeted, remember?
Yeah, she tweeted. Okay. No, I forgot. I forgot that part of it. Everybody's tweeting. By the way, we're tweeting a lot more on the Ben Joravsky Show. Got to give Leah a lot of credit. She's doing a great job tweeting. I tell you what, D, when you want to get some Twitter done, you go to a Z. All right? All right? Hate to say it. Your generation is being outpaced by the Z generation. Leah's killing it on that.
How's your
Twitter.
generation doing?
Not too well.
Okay.
I got a guy on Facebook the other day go, Ben, I really miss your radio show. I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for 6. Oh. Anyway, I love my baby boomer listeners, okay?
Now, of course, we will keep you posted on these stories as today's program rolls along.
Yeah.
But we're moving on, people, because we're about to talk local news. We're about to
Moving
find
on
out.
up, moving on
Okay,
up
please
to
stop.
the east side.
No singing.
I finally got a piece of the pie. Sorry. Love the Jeffersons.
Yeah, hang tight, millennials. We got a fantastic program for you today.
Yeah.
But coming up after this short little break, people, we are going to find out exactly what else is new. So don't you go anywhere. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
It's Chicagoland's adult entertainment playground. It's the world-famous Admiral Theater, 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. The Admiral is homegrown from Chicago, and it's the most conveniently located club in all of the city. 15 minutes from the O'Hare Airport in downtown Chicago Loop. Voted Chicago's best strip club, the Admiral has showgirls galore and a variety of adult entertainment shows. The world-famous Admiral Theater, open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. For events, showtime, and other information, visit AdmiralX.com. Must be 18 years of age or older to enter.
Hey, playing now at Steppenwolf Theater, the world premiere of Ms. Black for President. It's inspired by the true, that's true as in it really happened, TRUE story of Joan Jett Black, America's first drag queen presidential candidate. You know who created it, D?
No.
It was created by Tony nominee Tina Landau.
Oh.
And you know who else created it?
No.
Oscar winner Terrell Alvin McCraney. You know him, Moonlight. Oh, yeah. For tickets, visit steppenwolf.org. That's Steppenwolf, like the rock group from the 60s, .org.
Hang tight, millennials. Hey, welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yes, indeed. We are live from my beloved bright one, the Chicago Sun-Times in the West Loop. And it's that time with the D. The doctor takes the deep dive on the local news. What you got for me?
Absolutely. We're about to find out what's going on locally. It's time for What Else is News. And today, I'd like to share with everyone a feeling that I've been feeling lately.
Okay, feel free to share that feeling.
Yeah. But before I do that, Ben Joravsky,
I got a feeling.
for the first time in your life, I think you're going to regret not being invited to a political event in Springfield, Illinois.
Yeah, okay. What event was that?
Last night at the governor's mansion, our Democratic Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker threw a little birthday bash for our Illinois Secretary of State, a.k.a. that guy you always see in those pictures at the DMV, Jesse White.
Oh, man, I was not invited.
And boy, you're going to be pissed that you weren't.
Okay.
Yesterday, rumors were flying around like crazy as to who would be performing at said birthday bash for Jesse White.
Okay.
Because people keep in mind, we have a billionaire as a governor, okay?
yeah,
this dude
yeah.
booked Maroon 5 for his inauguration. And not,
he?
yeah, not the...
Wait, which one is Maroon? Is that the one with
oh, you're so hip.
Adam
Levine
from The Voice?
Adam Levine from The Voice.
Yeah, and he also did the Super Bowl show.
Yes.
Not saying it, Adam. Please don't take this the wrong way, but not the best Super Bowl show of all time.
Okay, well.
Not even in the top 20 or 30. I'm sorry, Brianna.
There went that Adam Levine interview. I had it booked and ready to go. I'm sure
You
he's
love
going
the
to cancel now.
tattoos. All right, go ahead. Why do you take his shirt off right in the middle of the song?
I don't know.
All right, sorry.
But no, Pritzker booked Maroon 5 for his inauguration. And no, not the best Maroon 5 cover band this south of I-80. The actual Maroon 5.
Okay.
Ben, get ready to start kicking yourself for not writing any Jesse White suck-up columns here. Because last night, performing at the governor's mansion, the godfather of funk himself, George Clinton, and the Parliament Funkadelic.
You're kidding me.
No, I am not. He's
I'm
speechless.
stunned. They got George Clinton? Well, I guess it's only appropriate about the legalized reefer. You get George Clinton. I saw him last year. Just gonna get funked up. Sorry, that's
And someone on the live stream chat was wondering if Ben doesn't air bass. So there you
I
go,
just
live stream
did.
chatter.
Bootsy Collins. Oh man, I cannot believe they got George Clinton and I was not invited.
Yeah, that's
By
what
the
I'm
way,
saying.
George Clinton is not. Don't all you George Clinton lovers out there. Don't get on my. I'm just reporting. He doesn't really move around a lot that much these days. Kind of sits there and lets the younger people in the band take over. But anyway, I still love George Clinton. Mothership connection, baby.
George Clinton and the P-Funk.
We're at the mothership right here, okay? This is the mothership.
Really?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Also spotted at the event, not Ben Joravsky, but Attorney General Kwame Raoul, State Treasurer Michael Frericks was dancing, I'm sure, GOP Senate Leader Bill Brady, Democratic Senate President John Cullerton, Democratic State Senator Heather Staines and Andy Manar, Republican State Rep Tim Butler, and a bunch of others.
Oh man, all those Republicans, they love George Clinton. It's so funny. The Republicans, hey Republicans, you got to admit our billionaire is better than your billionaire. Rauner was so cheap. Did he ever get George Clinton? Did he ever get Maroon 5? He ever had I'm cheap. He's got I got to save it up for like 12 houses everywhere.
I'd love to get Brooks and Dunn.
Huge Brooks and Dunn fan.
I did not know. So you got even the Republicans secretly, they'll never do this publicly, are admitting, I like Pritzker way more than I like Rauner.
All right, so Ben, I know, like I said, you're probably kicking yourself.
I am. Well, what can you do, man? I'm
The
never
one
invited.
Springfield event that you wish you would have went to, right there.
Yeah, man, I do love George Clinton. And you know what? His band is so tight. I told you, I heard him just last summer, and they were awesome. And every now and then he would get up and do this George Clinton dance, and the people go crazy. Yeah, he's moving. And then he'd sit down. Oh, yeah.
Shout out to our live stream chatter here, Crystal G. She says, LMAO, OMG, Ben is goofy. Yes, Crystal. Yes, he is. All right, now on to that feeling.
Ooh.
I've been feeling. Been feeling it for the last month or so.
Feelings.
Couldn't quite put my finger on what it was.
Okay.
But after talking about yesterday's news and playing the following quote from our Illinois governor, J.B. Pritzker.
After years of neglect, Illinois is finally getting its mojo back, and we're open for business.
I realized what it was.
What?
Ben,
What?
I have genuine optimism in Illinois government.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hear you, man.
that's insane. Believe it or not, when you lived in Illinois, well, quite frankly, under this guy under the last 4 years.
Yay for our teachers! Yay for our teachers!
Mr. Good Times. Never once had George Clinton.
Yeah, you tend to lose a little hope, with that guy running things. But my God, it looks like the state that had no budget for damn near 3 years is starting to dig itself out of the hole. We recently got Pritzker's fair tax legislation passed and on the ballot in the 2020 election. Hell, we just had the P-Funk play at the governor's mansion. But it does not stop there. Ben, get out the rolling papers. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and recent Ben Joravsky Show guest Tina Spondelas.
Ah, yes, Tina.
With the clock ticking to adjournment, the Illinois Senate on Wednesday quickly passed a comprehensive measure to allow recreational marijuana use, moving the state one big step closer to legalization.
Yes, indeed. And I already mentioned this, my beloved bright one. Headlines, weed backers, get it? Weed backers, with a picture of a marijuana leaf. State Senate passes bill to legalize recreational pot, sends it to the House. Now, Deacon, do you have more on this item? I'd like to weigh in, but do you have more on this?
Absolutely. Yeah, we got more here. It says here, the Illinois Senate voted 38-17 to approve the legislation after about 40 minutes of debate. It must still pass the Illinois House. Facing opposition from law enforcement groups and others, bill sponsors scaled back the expungement provisions in the measure and narrowed down home grow for just medical marijuana patients, among other changes.
Yeah.
The clock is winding down to adjournment, and legalizing marijuana remains one of J.B. Pritzker's top priorities. Legislators today, Thursday, will likely take up the budget and capital bills, as well as a measure that would set the rates on the graduated income tax. It sets the stage for a House debate on legalizing marijuana, potentially for Friday.
Yeah. All right. Listen, folks, you know what my opinion on this subject is? My opinion is that the United States lost its collective mind for the last almost 40-something years with its insane war on drugs, which is really just an excuse to lock up black people. And so it's about time that we ended the war on drugs. We take the first steps toward ending the war on drugs. I ask pretty much everybody who comes in this studio, of all the vices that we tax in the state of Illinois or in this country, which is the most destructive? And I still have not found a guest on this show who will say marijuana is more destructive than gambling, alcohol, or cigarettes, all of which are legal, all of which are taxed. Somehow or other, society has gone on for all these years legalizing and taxing those vices. But when it comes to reefer, we have this bizarre opposition, which is rooted in the 60s war, the 60s spat, between Republicans and Democrats, culture wars from the 60s. You know, the hippies are the ones who smoke the reefer, and the straight people drink the booze, so therefore the booze is better. Now, this whole thing about expungement, I had to read this in the Tribunal. The Tribune had a nice story on this, very interesting story in the Tribune. Here we go. Look at their headlines. All right, can we just do a moment to compare Tribune headlines to Sun-Times headlines?
Sure.
All right, Sun-Times headline. One more time. Weed backers. Get it? As opposed, like weed whackers, weed backers. Funny. Somebody with a sense
Very
of humor.
clever. Very clever.
Here's the Tribune headline. Ill. But it's Illinois, but it's ill, ILL period.
Yeah.
It's abbreviated.
Okay.
Ill Senate puts legal marijuana a step closer.
Oh, that ain't bad.
Oh, boy, I tell you what, those headline writers at the Trip, come on, guys.
That ain't bad. I mean, it's no cockadoodle-don't, but
Yeah, that was a great. I still have it here, by the way.
I'm sure you do. You got a big giant pile of papers since we started the show.
I keep these old newspapers around.
We started in February. It's February right there, guys.
Just in case anybody asks, I've got the entire Mueller report right here, all right? In fact, Miles is in the studio. I'm going to start giving trivia questions to him about the Miles.
What was the weather March 2nd? Oh, well, I got you right here.
Anyway, so here's what they said. To allow for pardons and expungement, Pritzker's office said the state police would identify past convictions for up to 30 grams, including possession and manufacturing. Now, folks, it's been a long time since I've been a reefer smoker. I mean, you got to go back to the late days of the Jimmy Carter administration. What's 30 grams?
A lot. Like I think it's like an eighth.
What? I'm looking at Miles. He's like, don't ask me. I don't indulge. Well, I don't know what 30 grams is, so I can't say.
I think it's more like a quarter
a quarter what?
I just buy it in
a
small
quarter
amounts.
pound?
of an ounce.
Oh, quarter pound. Isn't that hamburgers? Anyway, I just think like they're getting into the technicalities of what to expunge. Guys, the war on drugs was ridiculous. It was absurd. It should never have been waged. You should expunge pretty much everybody. Now they're dealing with like ounces. Well, I'm sorry, sir. You were 31 grams, so you can't have your record expunged. Here's my favorite part. Where is it? About the Republicans. The Republicans, they pardon and expungement procedures in early legislation had caused some concerns among some Republicans. They're very concerned about this, D, who otherwise have been willing to support the measure. They contended that previous legislation created an unconstitutional pardon and expungement procedure because it would have been authorized by lawmakers who did not have the power. Oh, my God. Republicans are hilarious. Suddenly they're worried about the Constitution. They're blindly supporting a president who's leading us off a cliff, obstructing justice left and right. But they're worried about the Constitution when it comes to expunging the record of some poor guy from the West Side who got busted for marijuana. Please, Republicans. You guys pick and choose the weirdest moments when you're going to have a principle. You never have a principle when it comes to standing up to Trump. You're so afraid. You're so chicken. You're so worried about his next tweet. And yet, when it comes to expunging the record of some poor guy who got arrested for marijuana in Illinois, I'm sorry, there's a principle at stake here. By the way, Miles, you can help me with this. How many people has Trump pardoned? Well, they're worried, the Republicans in Illinois, about expunging the records of people who've been busted for reefer. Didn't Trump, what was the name of that goofy sheriff in Arizona?
Arpaio, yeah.
Yeah, didn't he pardon him?
Well, and he's trying to pardon war criminals.
War
People
criminals?
convicted of war crimes.
Yeah, war crimes are okay, but marijuana, Republicans, man, you have lost your minds. Anyway, D, that's my thoughts on that subject.
So there you are. Anything else you'd like to say?
On that subject?
Or the fact that P-Funk was in Springfield last night and you weren't invited?
Well, that was an oversight, Pritzker. Come on. I know I didn't vote for you in the primary. Okay, you're still holding the grudge. I voted for him in the general. Like, what's that?
This is the Jesse White party? He had P-Funk?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Were you invited?
Nope.
Oh.
He left me off, too.
Leah, were you invited? No, Leah wasn't invited. Doctor, were you invited?
I was, but I couldn't make it.
Do you think they invited Diber? The guy you voted for?
I love the P-Funk. That's tavern talk there.
All right, anyway, so that's that.
But there you are, just like that. You're now in the know of what's going on in Chicago and Illinois, and now you will have an answer the next time someone asks you, hey, what else is news?
Yeah, let me tell you something.
Okey-doke.
Something that Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh.
She thinks. Okay, Whoopi Goldberg. You mentioned The View. Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, all right.
All right, something that Goldberg, the wrestler, and Alan Goldberg, a kid I went to high school with, they all agree. You did a great job. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. Miles is sitting here ready to go. We'll be right back.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan. Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Chicago Architecture Center. Discover the breadth and majesty of Chicago's architecture on a Chicago Architecture Center bus tour. From bungalows to Bauhaus, our expert docents will share the fascinating stories behind our city's architecture. Book your tour at architecture.org/tours. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually on a bus tour right now. Oh my, look at that wonderful piece of architecture.
Cirque du Soleil's Big Top comes back to Chicago with its latest show, Volta. Venture into a captivating voyage of discovery inspired by the adventurous spirit of freedom, where a surge of action sparks a high-voltage journey. Volta. Playing May 18th through July 6th under the Big Top at Soldier Field. Tickets at CirqueDuSoleil.com. Volta thanks their partners Hennessy Black and Champagne Nicolas Fayette.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Benny J, take it away.
Will do. Miles Kampf-Lassin, ace reporter for In These Times. What's this, your third time on the show? Fourth time?
Third time on this show. I was on your previous.
That show. Yeah, that one where I can't remember the name.
Yeah, we don't speak about it.
We don't speak about that one. Hey, get out of here.
Yeah, they fired you.
Oh, is that what they did? Okay. Anyway, Miles, love having you on because you could talk about local politics and national politics. And sometimes you talk about both at the same time. And this is one instance. You wrote an excellent article it was in These Times, was it not? About Mayor Rahm's I Am Not Who You Think I Was tour, rewriting history tour. And why don't you tell folks a little bit about what you wrote?
Sure. So, we just bid farewell to our dear mayor a few days ago.
Ex-mayor.
Monday was kind of the passing of the torch, his last official day
a week
in
ago
office
Monday.
last Monday. And what he immediately did the next day was published his debut article as a new contributing editor at the Atlantic magazine. So a lot of people had theories about why Rahm maybe decided not to run for a third term. Personally, I think it had a lot to do with the political climate in the city that was created by the incredible activism on the street, largely led by black youth, but that spread across the city. And he saw, his approval ratings in the toilet and knew he couldn't do it. But other people thought, oh, he's going to run for president. He's going to run for some other office. That's still possible down the road. But now we're starting to see really what his plan was. And that's to hunker down and become a guru for the Democratic Party in 2020 and tell them exactly what they need to do. Because, of course, he's had such a great success leading the charge in Chicago. So he wrote this article for the Atlantic called It's Time to Hold Elites Accountable for Their Abuses. Rahm Emanuel is somebody who made $18 million in the course of about 2.5 years working as an investment banker. He has been integral to the entire neoliberal turn of the Democratic Party that has lifted up the role of elites in our society and has made the Democratic Party essentially a fundraising circle that just does not seek to do anything but appease its corporate donor class. So if there was anybody who represents the elites in our American society and needs to be held accountable for their abuses, it's Rahm Emanuel. But
wait, hold on before you go any further. This is something that I'd like to get your thoughts on. remember where you're going because I'm interrupting
Sure.
you.
No.
But he used the term. Rahm used the term elites. Yeah. You used the term elites. When you use the term elites, what do you mean by elites?
Well, personally, I think that the elites are the people in our society that have massive amounts of wealth, that are detached from the regular day-to-day struggles that working people face, and that are seeking to create society in their image. So when Rahm Emanuel talks about trying to create a world-class city, that means building a glitzy downtown and building nice bike paths, which, I mean, I love bike paths too, building a nice river walk, which is great, but that also is about disinvesting in neighborhoods. I mean, he doesn't believe in redistributing wealth in our society, for example, at least not downward. And I think that that is a very elite approach to society. And he, Ben, as you know, Rahm's not worried about the next paycheck. So he's detached from those day-to-day concerns. I think that, to me, is what represents elites.
And what do you think Rahm means when he uses that term? What is he trying to convey when he says elites?
Well, I think he probably, I don't know what he personally means, but I think he is, that's the same type of people he's trying to identify. And what's interesting about the piece is I think that the analysis is kind of correct, that at least when he talks about the 2016 election, people were mad. People were, and they still are, they think that elites have screwed them over, that they've stacked the deck against them, and they saw Hillary Clinton as a representation of that, elite rule in our society. And they, for some reason, Donald Trump was able to claim the mantle of somebody who's going to shake it up, and try to fight against that, because that's what he claimed throughout the, campaign. He said, I'm going to take on the, the powers that be in Washington. Clearly didn't. I mean, he appointed all these billionaires to his cabinet, for example, but he was able to ride that wave of anger. And that, I think, is what Rahm says, but the solutions he gives in the article are that we need to embrace middle-class values.
Yeah.
It's this empty rhetoric that has nothing to do with actual policies that would help working-class people and take power away from the elites in our society. And that's what I think people actually want.
I think there's certain phrases or words that have political meanings that I don't know if we've ever examined them. They're like dog whistles, understand what I'm saying? And so like elite is one of them. And people use elite, the word elite, as like a weapon in a political debate or an argument. It's like the other one. I'm just blanked on it. What's the other one, D? Where he looked at me like, what other? You got to give me more than that. Republicans are politically correct. Like
PC culture.
Politically correct. Like Miles, Republicans and even like Democrats who move on the right, they talk about political correctness, and they're conveying something, but I don't think they think through it. Like political correction in the abstract means you don't say what you really think and believe because you don't want to offend anybody. Right. Well, that crosses party lines. You got, I can't get over this. 90% of the Republican Party supports Donald Trump. They can't possibly support a president who obstructs justice. At least I would hope they do. Yeah. But because of political correctness you get what I'm saying? Yeah. But when you say political correctness, this is where they're successful at their branding. Everybody thinks lefties who say you have to recycle. Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Or they think of college campus debates and deplatforming and things like that.
Yeah.
I think the right has been very good at that.
What's that?
I think the right has been very good at that.
And I think they've been very good with the word elite. Because I know what you're saying when you use the word elite. Yeah. But when Rahm used the word elite, he was trying to send a message.
Well, I think what Rahm was trying to do as well is to push back against the actual activism that is happening within the Democratic Party that is pushing it to the left. And he is trying to say, no, we don't need to do that. What we need to do is get back to our roots. And, you can see it in how he, the one issue that he presents as that's not a solution. He doesn't embrace any solutions in the piece besides, as I said, these kind of empty claims about middle class interests and justice and but he says the answer certainly is not socialism, and he says that for a reason. He says he writes that because he sees what's happening in his home city that he just had to leave because of how, as I said, his approval ratings were in the toilet. And look, we got 6 Democratic socialists elected to the city council, so this isn't some far off thing for him. He's actually having to deal with these tectonic shifts that are happening in the party as we speak, and his role is trying to keep that at bay and say, no, we don't need to embrace things like Medicare for all or a Green New Deal or these big, bold, expansive programs that, as I said, would redistribute wealth back to the working people from the people who hold the wealth in our society right now. We just need to embrace middle-class interests.
All right, now I have another question, but I want to make sure I didn't cut you off. When you said elites, it triggered something in me.
Gotcha.
So was there anything else you're going to say about the essay?
Well, it's completely absurd on its face, and I think everybody should see it as that. And I also think he's going to keep doing this, right? He got another job as an ABC contributor, so he's going to be on these Sunday shows. So expect to see a lot more of Rahm Emanuel trying to give advice to the Democratic Party. And just remember, this is the same guy that pushed through NAFTA, which decimated the working class and offshore jobs, same guy who pushed through welfare reform, same guy who told Bill Clinton he needed to deport more immigrants, the same person that told Obama not to do healthcare reform, and obviously the same guy that was the mayor of Chicago for 8 years.
Yeah, and they were with the Clintons for Ask, Don't Tell.
Yeah.
Okay, now, what about if Rahm started rebranding these ideas? Follow me what I'm about to say. So clearly, the new Democrats, I just came up with that term, the newly elected Democrats, the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez contingent, for lack of a better word, have pushed the conversation to the left. And they're trying to do for the Democrats what the Koch brothers, et cetera, have done for the Republicans by pushed it to the right. And Rauner's done that, Trump has done that, et cetera, et cetera. So what if the Rahms of the world, the party establishment, the mainstream centrists of the Democratic Party realized that their future relied on sort of co-opting the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's, but they figured that they had to rebrand it. So do you think there's a possibility that we're going to see the Rahms of the world, the David Axelrods of the world, the Artie Duncans of the world, suddenly coming up with articles championing the Green New Deal proposals, but calling it something else? In other words, trying to separate themselves from the word socialism and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think that they're going to try to take the actual contents of the policies and give it a different name. I think they're going to try to keep similar names that are popular and just water down all the proposals so that they don't actually do the things they were meant to do. And I think we already see that through, we got even people like Joe Biden talking about, he's not talking about Medicare for all, he's talking about, we're going to do some type of access to health care for all that doesn't actually solve the problem of millions of Americans not having health care in America. It just, is a way to take some of that excitement and energy that people rightly feel about making healthcare universal right and trying to weave that into this more centrist vision. So that's, I think, what we're going to see.
I didn't miss that. What did Biden say? What does he call it? I missed this somehow or other.
He has pushed back against Medicare for all.
Yeah.
He says that's the reason he says he's against Medicare for all is because it will let employers off the hook, as if the problem with healthcare in America right now is that the employers aren't being punished enough, and that if we embrace Medicare for all, we're going to let employers off the hook because the government's going to cover healthcare. I don't think people care that where their healthcare is coming from. It's an absurd argument. But what he does say is that he does want to increase access and make access available to more people, and that's constantly what you hear from this centrist wing of the Democratic Party, is that the problem is not about the enshrining things as a right, which is what progressives and socialists believe, is that we need to expand social rights in America to things like housing and education and healthcare. They believe we just need to expand access. So that's what Joe Biden is saying, but he's using some of the language of Medicare for all.
Well, I was just having a very interesting conversation with a friend of mine in the HR department here at the Sun-Times, a very helpful person who knows how healthcare works, and she was explaining to me the enormous expense to an employer of healthcare plan.
It's the number one issue at the bargaining table every single time.
And I just, like, when I heard it from her, and she really you got to go to the HR people to really understand how the world works. But when I heard it from her, I just said, we are tied to an insane way of providing healthcare. It's so expensive. It's so, how do I put this, demeaning and patronizing, because it forces people to stay employed at the job that they have because they don't want to lose their health care. So it's got to hurt the entrepreneurial spirit. It's got to keep people from trying new things because they're so afraid of losing their health care. And it also keeps money out of the pockets of employees, because instead of giving a raise to all my friends here who do a great job writing the headlines and my beloved Bright One, they have to pay the insurance companies for the health care.
Well, just think about how much more could be bargained over if healthcare was an issue that you didn't have to deal with. If healthcare was an issue that was covered, that was something that was covered by the government, and you never had to argue with your employer about it. Think of all the other things that you could potentially, win at the bargaining table, that you could, seek in, when you're trying to get a job. Also, as you said, it would allow people to be able to move more freely between jobs. And every single time that you hear arguments against Medicare for all, what people will say is people like their insurance. You're going to take their insurance away from them. Look, anybody who's had a job has experienced every year, every few years, your insurance is changing. Your employer is getting a new plan, and it's getting different rates and different deductibles. There's so much inconsistency in our current healthcare system. The reason that what people like is their doctor. They like their hospital. They like the people they trust in for their medical care. That wouldn't change under Medicare for all. You'd still have the same doctor. You'd still have the same hospital. You would just have it provided by the government rather than by a private insurance company.
All right, now, I realize the question I'm about to ask you, the answer really doesn't matter, but I'm curious what your thoughts are anyway. I've had this long-standing debate with a friend who's of the far left persuasion. We've been having this argument for about 10 years. And it has to do with, I know, sometimes some arguments never get old, and it has to do with this. When the Rahms of the world, or the Joe Bidens of the world, take an opposition to Medicare for all, are they expressing an ideological belief? In other words, they're opposed to the government getting more involved than it already is in healthcare, and do they think the private world does it better? Or are they just devoted to this Clintonian pragmatic view of the world that somehow or other, if you go too far, if you call for Medicare for all, you're going to lose those swing voters in Virginia. So we got to worry about those swing voters in suburban Virginia, what they're obsessed with. So do you think it's the pragmatism, or do you think it's like ideological, like they've drunk so much of the Kool-Aid they actually believe this stuff?
Well, I think they do believe it. I don't think that there would be, you're seeing, I understand why there's a debate, because you're seeing this rapid shift to the left in the Democratic Party, right? We got a third of the senators now endorsing Medicare for all, whereas in the 2016 election, it was, Bernie and a few others.
A third? It's up to a third of the U.S.
Of the Democrats.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I was like, what? Okay, yeah.
But that happened out of nowhere because some of these people don't have those same ideological coils, that are keeping them attached to this centrist vision. That said, I think the architects of a lot of these policies, which are the Rahm Emanuels of the world, actually do believe in having market-based solutions to everything. They're essentially market fundamentalists. What they don't want to see the government get into the role of providing health care in America, but they will disguise that in this pragmatic approach and say we can't, we're going to alienate people. That's way too far. Think about all these Reagan Democrats. Look, Reagan was elected in 1980. Somebody has not been a Democrat since Ronald Reagan was elected. I don't think we're going to win him back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm with you 100%. First of all, the Reagan Democrats weren't Democrats when they voted for Reagan in 1980. They were already Republicans, because before they were Reagan Democrats, they were Nixon Democrats. Yeah. All right, so...
But you'll hear that time and time again, and so you'll get your Ed Rendells saying we're going to alienate the Pennsylvania voters. You'll get people saying, Virginia voters, your Terry McAuliffes are going to say that. These are all people that come from the Clinton wing of the party. So there's a reason that they are protecting the type of approach that Bill Clinton and Rahm Emanuel and Joe Biden have had to politics over the past.
Well, for what it's worth, I do not believe, and it doesn't matter, I get ultimately, but I do not believe. Maybe I have too much respect for Bill Clinton and Rahm Emanuel. I can't believe they actually believe the stuff that comes out of their mouths. I just think they're spouting something they think works.
Also, we should say that these are people that are funded. Their entire political careers have been funded by corporate interests. So they don't want to offend these people because that's where they're getting their money from. I mean, look at it. Like, you always follow the money. And so if Rahm Emanuel's making $18 million in a few years working on Wall Street, where the job he got was through Bruce Rauner, who he was vacationing with, there's a strong chance that the reason he's supporting the type of policies he is could be because of where he's gotten his money from.
Yeah, fair enough. Mayor Rahm, I actually think that he's got the bug and he wants to be in media. So
Of course he does.
Yeah,
Hey, we can't blame him.
Yeah, that's so much fun.
Take a chill pill, man.
Okay, sorry, Rahm. All right, now let's move on to local stuff. Like I said, Miles has got the ability to talk national and local. A pretty extraordinary scene in yesterday's Chicago City Council. We'll be talking about this at greater length with Candice Castillo, who's coming on at 2:30, and Jeff Johnson, who'll be up in a little while. But pretty extraordinary scene where the new mayor of the city of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, got up was at the podium, and the old power of Ed Burke, he stood up, and he it was so bizarre, man. He tried to assert that she was somehow or other politically incorrect, but for the way she used pronouns in some ordinance. And so he was defending women. How about that? Ed Burke, suddenly late in life, becomes a feminist. And she swatted him down like a fly. I think that's how Fran Spielman played it. And everybody is jubilant. Suddenly it's like...
A pesky fly.
Oh, a pesky fly, as opposed to just, like...
I read the paper today. Fran's got 2 big articles in there. How about that? She's killing it.
She's killing it, man. Yeah, Fran Spielman's killing it. Lightfoot, no lightweight. How about that one? Lightfoot.
He loves these headlines.
I love the Sun-Times, man. Come on. You got to admit the Sun-Times kills the Tribune when it comes to headlines.
Did you see Cockadoodle Don't last week?
I did not see that one.
Oh, he's got the paper.
Come on, man. All right, hold on.
Here it is.
There you go.
Oh my goodness!
Show those viewers.
And we got a nice chicken on there.
It's a rooster, actually. Yeah. Rooster crows at the
don't know
break
my
of dawn.
fowl
Yeah. But anyway, so, just to give you your perspective as a millennial, you came of age. Ed Burke was the all-powerful guy. You were one of those political geeks who followed politics at an early age. What was that like when you saw Ed Burke swatted away like a fly?
Well, it's so satisfying, and I think that's why you're seeing these headlines, especially for something that, fairly inconsequential, right? Like, this didn't have anything to do with any policies, but yet Lori's being treated as this, heroic figure. I think John Cass called her Homeric, trying to reference the Odyssey in there. I think
John Cass been reading the Odyssey these days.
Yeah, I don't know.
John Cass in between drinking that Donald Trump Kool-Aid. Anyway, I'm sorry. Cass was yesterday's show. Okay. Let's focus, Ben. Focus.
But of
Go
course,
ahead.
It was satisfying. I mean, this is the guy that has, under indictments. He's, clearly one of the most corrupt politicians in recent Chicago history, which is saying quite a bit when you have, Danny Solis still on the lam. Although I think he was spotted.
He was spotted at some Social Security office in Pilsen. Yeah, go ahead.
So that's quite a distinction that Burke holds right now, and seeing that play out was incredibly satisfying because it seemed to represent the old guard kind of getting their ass kicked a little bit.
Yeah.
And you don't see that very frequently in Chicago politics. That said, I think the actual challenge is going to be, is Lori Lightfoot going to put forward the type of progressive program she campaigned on? And so far, she's made some really, important moves towards doing that. I think this Fair Work Week ordinance that she's talked about quite a bit would go a long way, allow fair scheduling in Chicago. But these are going to be the actual issues going to be taking on the powers that be, the CME group, the kind of like financial powers that be in the city. That's where we want to see her swatting down flies. Ed Burke does not hold as much power as he did in the city council. Look, he's been stripped of his chairmanship. We have a whole new set of chairs in the committees in the city council. And what Lori Lightfoot is going to have to show is that she's willing to stand up not just to the Ed Burkes and the the Beals of the world that are,
Anthony Beal, yeah.
Anthony Beal.
Ninth Ward Alderman.
Or the Lopez's. I mean, that's kind of
Ray Lowe. All right, but here's my problem. Now, I'm going to deal with this, and you're going to play the role as my therapist, okay? Sure. I have a lot of mental issues. This is just one of them. I have a little hard time. Oh, my God, this is confession time. I have a little hard time watching all of Chicago rejoicing at the swatting down like a fly, a pesky fly, of Ed Burke, when it was the same city of Chicago that looked the other way while he accumulated all this power, while he controlled the flow of every single piece of legislation that came, while he was continually reelected, just was reelected by the good citizens of the 14th Ward, that while he was continually put in as the all-powerful chairman of the Finance Committee by every mayor that we've had since the great Harold Washington, Eugene Sawyer also. So I have a little trouble with everybody suddenly acting as though they were on the side of justice justice all these years. And like, oh yeah, finally Ed Burke. Where were any of these people, Miles, when we needed them? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I gotcha.
I mean, that's the part. I got to deal with that, folks. I'm just dealing with that right now.
Well, there's plenty of, gamesmanship going on, right?
Yeah.
People are seeing which way the winds are shifting. As you were saying earlier, people are counting the math.
Yeah,
know?
yeah, like 175.
So I think that there's a lot. That's the positioning has a lot to do with that. But I also think that it is a new day in Chicago. That the election we just saw was one of the most transformative we've had in my lifetime in the city for sure. And I think we're going to keep that moving. You're going to have Candace on later. She can talk about what United Working Families is doing. There's groups like Democratic Socialists of America in Chicago that are working to change the political system and leadership. And there's so many community groups working on issues, whether it's the Fair Work Week ordinance, or it's rent control, or it's removing carve-outs from the sanctuary city ordinance. I think there's a chance we can see a really big progressive movement. And the same, it's going on nationally and locally, this shift to the left in the Democratic Party and in government. So I think that we're going to keep seeing these moves. And I think there's a lot less ideological stature in Chicago politics. I don't think that that's what's informing aldermen's votes or anything. I think that they're coming at it because they're seeing which way the winds are blowing.
Yes,
right?
the aldermen. They're very pragmatic,
Right.
to put it mildly.
And right now the winds are blowing in a direction that is against the Ed Burkes of the world. So I think that is definitely a good thing. The challenge is going to be when you have to stand up against the real estate lobby, if you're trying to enact rent control, if you're going to stand up against the financial industry, if you're going to impose a financial transaction tax to actually fund some of these social programs. So
yeah,
I think that's the challenge that we're going to have to be up against soon.
Well, I gotta tell you that I had on the show yesterday Amisha Patel from Grassroots Collaborative, and she was talking about the lawsuit they have against Lincoln Yards, and that will be. By the way, I urge everybody to check it out after today's show, because it was a very enlightening conversation with Amisha. That, as they explain things, that is really going to be a crucial moment where Lori Lightfoot is going to show which direction she's going into. I'll reduce this as much as I can. I'll be probably getting into in greater detail in a reader story. But essentially, that lawsuit was filed against the city of Chicago for allowing a TIF district to be created to fund the monstrosity known as Lincoln Yards.
The largest TIF ever.
Yeah, the largest TIF. Well, yeah, in terms of dough for one project, you're absolutely correct. So, they're challenging that on the constitutional basis, saying that it's racially discriminatory. That's their weapon that they're going after. Now, the mayor of the city of Chicago, when they filed the suit, was the aforementioned Mr. Rahm Emanuel. The now mayor of the city of Chicago is Lori Lightfoot, and she is going to have to decide whether she's going to fight the lawsuit or try to join the lawsuit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Try to settle the law. She's got a decision to make that will really send a strong message as to what she's all about when it comes to these TIF deals. And so, I'm really waiting for that. I know that's in the weeds, and it's a lot hard for a lot of people to follow.
I think that it's a critical issue. I mean, this was one of her first acts upon being elected was to seemingly back off and allow that Lincoln Yards TIF deal to go through. So much like you brought up earlier in the show about how Rahm fought instead of joining the lawsuit around the parking meter deal, he just basically reaffirmed it. Mm-hmm. And what is Lori going to do? This will be a test of whether she's going to actually stand up. And she spent the whole campaign talking about how this Lincoln Yards deal is robbery, basically.
Yeah.
So is she going to have the courage of the convictions?
Well, I have to say this to my lefty friends. You're out there. I know you're listening, and you were all trying to get me to bash Lori before the election. And I really couldn't do it, Miles, because one, I didn't know enough about Lori Lightfoot, where she was coming from, to say one way or the other how she would be as a mayor. She was saying all the right things on the campaign trail. And I didn't see anything in Toni Preckwinkle's background that led me to say she was clearly the more progressive candidate, or more liberal, or more lefty. So I just sort of said, folks, I don't think either one of these persons is a great champion of progressive politics. Man, did I get heat for that one, all right, from my friends of the lefty persuasion. So, friends of the lefty persuasion, I never stop loving you. I love you now. But I think Lori Lightfoot is off to a good start, which is coming from me. And I've been fighting these mayors all these years. I mean, I've got to go back to Harold Washington to think of a mayor that got off, in my humble opinion. We're only a week in, so that's where I view things now. I'm really, I got to say, Dennis, what was the word you used about Pritzker? Happy. It's not a word that I usually associate with myself and politics.
Well, optimistic.
Optimistic, that's the word.
I think Pritzker's, just shown himself to be a progressive champion. Who knew, right? I mean, a lot of people, had fought him every step of the way through the campaign because this is another billionaire trying to get in office, buy his way in. He's been following, but the thing is, he's been following progressive community groups that have been leading the way on these issues, right? And he's been bringing them in. That's why we have, we're on the verge of passing the most progressive marijuana legalization bill in the country, is because community groups helped draft it. People that actually had experience dealing with, racial injustice, dealing with the type of drug war issues that have plagued so many communities. So I think that's the part of the reason, is that Pritzker has brought them in. If Lori brings them in, those types of groups in the same way to help guide legislation in the city and guide policymaking, then I'm hopeful as well that we can have a more progressive government.
Well, Miles, one of the things we'll be talking about when you come back, and I know you're going to come back because I love having you on the show, but one of the things we're going to be talking about is whether this progressive politics that we see in the city of Chicago, I hope, 1 weekend, I'm pretty optimistic. We'll see what Jeff Johnson has to say about it. It's coming on next. The progressive politics we're seeing 1 weekend in the city of Chicago, and what we've been seeing from J.B. Pritzker, is that just something limited to Illinois, a very blue state, or is that a sign of things to come, as we head into the 2020 election? So I don't know the answer to that one. I'm really undecided on that one, but I'm hoping it's a sign of things to come and not just, limited to Illinois.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think that we've seen, New York passed the New York Reproductive Health Act a few months ago. I think it was back in January. And Illinois just followed suit and did so here as well. So I think that there are going to, especially in Trump's America, that we've seen these more Democratic-led states become real bastions of progressive policymaking. And once we have a more democratic and progressive national government as well, I think we can start to see some of these policies replicate themselves across the country as well.
All right, before I bring in the great Jeff Johnson, Miles, tell folks where they can find you, follow you, read your articles, that kind of thing.
Sure. Well, I'm, as Ben said, a reporter, writer, and editor at In These Times. That's at inthesetimes.com, all one word. You can also follow me on Twitter at Miles K-Lassin, MILES-KLASSIN. And sometimes I write for other places too. Just keep an eye out for me.
All right, very good, Miles. Thanks for coming on. We'll get you on next month.
And Miles mentioned the Riverwalk. I got to take care of this.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
This portion of the Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by the soon-to-be Rahm Emanuel Riverwalk. Listen, if you really want to make our former mayor happy, tell your alderman that you want that Riverwalk named after him. You don't even have to rename it like that pesky Dan Ryan. The Rahm Emanuel Riverwalk. Coming soon. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that was about 2 weeks ago.
Take
Fran
a chill pill,
Spielman had an article about how Rahm wanted to be honored. And it was like he was suggesting he be honored. And I've been on a riff ever since.
I just wonder if there's like a sewage plant somewhere.
Well, no, I was like where you tow cars because so many people got their cars towed.
Lincoln Towing maybe should be
but
the...
You can't... people have to honor you. You know what I mean? It's like a nickname. Like Jeff Badass Johnson. He got that nickname in Lane Tech, all right?
Earned it, yeah.
He earned it. Rahm, you got to earn getting named for the... Anyway, thank you very much, Miles. Jeff Johnson is on deck. We're going to bring him on when we return.
Hey there, producer Dennis here. Thanks for finding and listening to the brand new Ben Joravsky Show. All right, so here's how this works. The Ben Joravsky Show live streams on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Once the show is over, you can listen to the replay on our YouTube channel, or we throw it online for you to download by 4 p.m. Where can you download the Ben Joravsky Show, you may be asking yourself? Well, you may be asking yourself a fantastic question. You can find previous Ben Joravsky shows and guest interviews through several outlets. The Chicago Sun-Times Online, chicago.suntimes.com, the Chicago Reader Online, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, pick one. Just search for The Ben Joravsky Show, Joravsky.
V as in victory, SKY. So let's recap. Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Live streamed on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel and downloadable by 4 at chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Yes, the Ben Joravsky Show is back. We're live and downloaded. Tell your friends and enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, everybody, what you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffemanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. Jeff. M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
Boy, Ben loves that Jeff Manuel.
I do love that song.
Good God. All right. Our hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Thursday, May 30th is just moments away. But before we get into that, people, we would like to thank the following unions once again for jumping on board and bringing back the Ben Joravsky Show. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8. The next union, well, our guest in studio right now is with this union, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9. Hoorah! That's a Navy or
that's your Marine thing.
That's Marine thing.
Yeah, hoorah. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't have your mic on, dude.
No, yeah. Silence me.
There we go. Wasn't on purpose. And the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Big thank you to those unions once again for jumping on board and bringing back the Ben Joravsky Show. And, of course, today's program is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2, let's go. Yes, it is Thursday, May 30th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, we welcome back Union Man Jeff Johnson, and also making her return, political strategist Candace Castillo. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, Benny J. Ben Joravsky.
Yes, indeed. Miles has left the building. Candace is coming to the building. Jeff Johnson is here in the building. Can't wait to do the deep dive. Like I told you, everybody, we're going to start out talking about what went down in the city council, some of the latest news, but then get your paper out, get your pencils out. Jeff Johnson knows more about pensions than anyone alive. We're going to take a deep dive. There's going to be a test after today's show about pension obligations.
That's right.
So take notes, all right?
What is the actual valuation of the emerging market debt of Brazil? Exactly.
Habada. I had a flashback to economics in college. I'm scared. Anyway, we're going to do the deep dive and all that stuff. But before we do that, D, you got an update for us?
Absolutely. People, our caption contest is coming to a close today. It's a Mayor Rahm, J.B. Pritzker caption contest. It's all in celebration of reaching 1,500 likes on the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page. We're going to pick 3 winners today, and those 3 captioners will win a pair of tickets to see Cirque du Soleil, Volta, at Soldier Field now until July 6th. We'll be reading your captions in about 30 minutes, so if you're listening live right now and you've yet to send us those captions,
head over to the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page and do so, won't you? At Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. JORAV as in victory, SKY is how you spell that crazy last name.
It is insane.
Keep the captions coming. At the end of today's program, we will announce our winners. Candace Castillo, I don't know if she knows this or not, but she's got a lot of pressure on her.
A lot of pressure, yeah. A lot of pressure on her.
We have a 2020 Democratic POTUS candidate update. 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren was on The View today.
Oh, okay.
I know. Jeff Johnson loves The View. He told me that before the show today.
I watch it every day.
You too?
Yes, I do. I carve out that time.
I heard he's a big Whoopi fan. A growing number of our Democratic candidates are calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump. Elizabeth Warren was the first, and today on The View, she doubled down, saying that if Donald Trump weren't the president, he'd be in handcuffs.
We knew three things. The first one is a hostile foreign government attacked our 2016 election for the purposes of helping Donald Trump get elected.
Right.
Part two, candidate Donald Trump welcomed the help.
Yeah.
Part three, when the federal government tried to investigate part one and part two, Donald Trump did everything he could to derail, stop, halt, obstruct that investigation.
Right.
That is a violation of the law.
Yeah.
If he were anyone other than President of the United States, he would be in handcuffs and indicted. And Mueller served that up and says, basically, by the time you get to the end of the report, there are all the facts, multiple examples of obstruction of justice. I can't indict.
Right.
It's up to Congress. And
I came up to the
Congress's
same
tool-
conclusion,
Yes,
Senator.
there you go. Wow.
Wow, me too.
I read that and I thought, you know, I didn't take an oath to support Donald Trump. I took an oath to support the Constitution of the United States. So,
And the crowd loves Elizabeth. Who is the woman who said I came to the same conclusion?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I you don't know.
One of the ladies from The View.
There is a column.
Meredith.
Was that who it is? There's a column in today's New York
taking a
Times
stab in
by
the dark.
Robert De Niro, the actor who plays Robert Mueller in Saturday Night Live. The little bits they do on the Trump White House. Anyway, he writes a column, which I agree with. It makes a good point. Robert Mueller, part of the problem is that he's not direct. He talks kind of funny, Jeff Johnson. You know, it's like the passive voice.
Right around the issue. Yeah.
I write around the issue. Said, come out and say it exactly.
Well, we did not say this.
Exactly.
Yeah, wait, hold on.
Yeah, we did not. So everybody's like, huh? Let me see that shot.
So what does that mean?
Yeah. And that's part of the problem. And I just think that Robert Mueller is one of those guys who doesn't want to be pinned down. But it's pretty clear if you read the report that all the evidence of alleged obstruction.
Possibly alleged. Yeah.
But that's powerful stuff. Let out in handcuffs. Elizabeth Warren doubling down. All right, Jeff Johnson, let's get down to business. So were you at the council meeting yesterday?
No, I was not. I did watch it live.
All right. So listen, here's my point. I may have said this to you in passing before we came on. You know, I've been fighting mayors for many, many years, and it's kind of weird. Have this moment. Ed Burke's up there, and everybody's against him, and they're all like, oh, yeah, give him hell, Lori. And I'm thinking, where were any of you?
Exactly.
Absolutely any of you. They were kissing Ed Burke's ring, Jeff Johnson.
Yeah.
What? It's about 6 months ago. Wasn't even that long ago.
That long ago, yeah.
And he's lining up at his fundraiser.
The chairman, yeah, exactly.
You
The
know,
chairman.
Chair. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, there was a lot of ink spilled over the confrontation that the mayor had with Mr. Burke over his, for whatever reason, you know, his issue with the his or hers terminology.
Yeah.
And yeah, to me it wasn't that big of a deal. But you know, the other part of it too, they're looking for fights. You know, it sells papers. It's a good lead-in for TV shows.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't that big of a deal. You know, it goes back to something I told you before that we were talking about the last mayor. That if you weren't throwing stones at him previously until he's out of office, it lessens my credibility in you now that you want to pick a fight with a wounded lion, you know, per se.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on it.
I'm not at the point where I'm going to be defending or championing Ed Burke, by no means. But I just I wish some of you guys were hanging or so big, bad, and tough. You know, we could have used a little help. And then there's this, and let's see what your reaction to this. I do appreciate the fact that we have two houses of government, if you will. Go back to your high school civics classes.
Exactly.
We have the executive branch and we have the legislative branch.
Yes.
And the legislative branch is supposed to be a check and a balance on the executive branch. I happen to like Lori Lightfoot. I happen to like what she's done in the first week or so, but I do not believe in unbridled, unchecked power. And so this notion that somehow or other it's undemocratic for an alderman like Ray Lopez to stand up and dare to criticize the mayor of the city of Chicago, I'm sorry. I think that just goes too far in the other direction.
Yeah, well, exactly, right? Especially going back to the committee assignments. And I love Alderman Wagasback. I think he's a great guy. I think he's one of the better aldermen that we have. You know, he gets numbers, he gets pensions, he gets financial information. But to say, when a mayor says, here's my committee chairman and chairwoman, and when they come out and say this is who I'm picking, well, it goes back to the legislative branch of things. They're supposed to vote on their heads.
I know.
It's like, well, wait, we forgot about this, right? You know, it's like, here's your scorecard. You know, that's who's playing today.
Yeah.
But you know, it's kind of been that way for a while, I guess.
Well,
right?
It's been that way since Harold Washington. This is before you were born, 1983, when Harold Washington was elected mayor, and Ed Burke and Ed Verdolick teamed up to name the chairman. They had the votes in the city council to do so. But ever since then, the mayor has dictated who's the chair of the council. And the problem is, see, I love Scotty Wagasback too. I think he's got a lot of integrity. But you know, I don't believe, as a principle, the mayor of the city of Chicago should be determining who the chairman of the finance committee is.
I agree. Yeah.
Now, the other problem is, who would the aldermen have come up with if on their own? Do you have any? I mean, who would they have? Do you have any thought? They couldn't have gone back to Burke.
No, they couldn't,
because he's facing indictment.
But after, I think a logical choice that I think they probably would have gone maybe is Riley from 42.
Brendan Riley.
Yeah, good choice. Middle of the road. You want somebody middle of the road that can work with people. Like the floor leader, you need that as well.
And Riley did, from my perspective, he did vote against those TIF deals, so I would have been okay with that.
Tawny's a good choice, or not a good choice, but he would have been one of the choices, I think. Because you start going back into like who are the senior members who understand government, and because you got a lot of newer people, especially 8 years ago, and then the new ones elected today, or this term around, you've had a lot of changeover. And what's interesting too is I thought there was going to be the first fight with Alderman Beal and Alderman Austin, right? I thought that was going to be one of the first tests that the mayor had.
What do you mean? Alderman Beal, the ninth ward on the south side.
When they took away transportation and when they took away budget.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be, the first where they stand up and they're going to pick a fight, because sooner or later somebody's going to pick a fight with the administration. You just have to, right? It's the new kid on the block. It's the, that's the rule of thumb, right? You want to take, a shot at the new kid. And I thought that was going to be the first point where somebody stood up and then they folded like a deck of cards when it came down to it, and a little hubbub from Beal, but it just kind of faded off.
Well, look what Lori did. And we had Joanna Klonsky on the show last week, and we were talking about that. Joanna's one of the strategists for Lori. Look what Lori did. You got to give her credit. She took away budget from Carrie Austin because Carrie Austin was for Tony Preckwinkle. And so, you can't reward your enemies if you don't have to. All right. So she took away budget. But she gave her some, I forget what committee, committee. She gave her something, all right?
Community economic something about trees or something.
Something, right. Yeah. Because Carrie Austin had said in the Sun-Times to Franz Spielman, I will support this mayor, all right? So, okay, what a city we got. She deferred to the mayor. The mayor gave her something, right? Exactly. Anthony Beal, when he went on the Franz Spielman show, said, I'm going to stand up, blah, blah. Oh, you ain't going to stand up? I'm not going to give you anything. Yeah. And so that's...
it's crazy. But here's a question for you, right? Because I find myself having the same question. I've never really been on the inside where I back somebody and like they won, and it was like somebody that like you liked. I've always been on the outside throwing rocks.
Yeah, man, me too.
How does that feel, right? Because now everything that happens, it's like because then you are per se not judged, but it's that's your person, right?
Yeah.
You backed them.
Yeah.
And I've had people say your mayor already.
Yeah.
They've already started with that. Your mayor wants. I'm like, oh, relax.
Yeah.
How does that feel being on the inside now, back in a candidate?
Well, I got to tell you, it is a very bizarre feeling, and the only thing I can equate it to, for me anyway, I was a big fan, still am, of Karen Lewis, and I was a big supporter of the teachers when they went on strike in 2012. And Jeff, you don't know how many people, when they didn't even call her Karen Lewis,
Yeah.
they would call her your girl.
Your
Your
girl.
girl.
Your girl.
Your
Yeah.
girl.
Your
And
girl.
After a while, I
Yeah.
put it in print. Yeah, she is my girl. I love Karen Lewis. She stood up to Mayor Rahm, and she represented union rights in a city that should be totally 100% union. So
Yeah.
I hear you. Pretty soon they're going to be going, Ben, your girl.
Your girl said this. Your girl did
said
this.
that.
Yeah.
So it's weird, but you know what? Listen, I've been banging my head against the wall, Jeff Johnson, for all these years. I see Lori Lightfoot. She's doing things I want, so I got to applaud her. I got to encourage. It's like we're talking about finally legalizing reefer. All these years,
yeah.
finally they're legal. So I got to give Pritzker credit.
Yeah.
By the way, your thoughts on Pritzker before we go local? He's been off to a pretty good start, don't you think?
Yes, he's trying. He's trying to build up some easy chips, trying to get the easy wins. The amendment, I think, was I will say this:
The fair tax
the
amendment.
fair tax amendment was sold in a great way. 97% of people, right? Oh, okay, it's not going to affect me. There's still
97% of the people are going to get a tax break.
but there's still some devils in the details where it's like it's not narrowing down the tax rate, because if they don't take in enough income, they can lower that threshold.
That is correct. Yeah,
you got to be okay.
You got to watch the details.
Yes, and so that's where the devil's in the details there. But you got that. The marijuana is just, it's a natural thing that I think you're seeing come across where people, and the ones that are against it are still the churches and, those groups, which fair enough. The casino, the sports books, all that stuff. I think it seems like that got caught up in the middle of a fight between, what's his name, Dunn and FanDuel. And,
Yeah.
So that's kind of, seems like it's caught up in the middle of that little hubbub.
Yeah, the fantasy fight, fantasy betting world versus, as opposed to the casino. Yeah, Tina Svandells was explaining that one.
Yeah. So you start going in the weeds in that, and that gets very complicated. But I think he's off to a good start, and he's doing things through a very fair lens, I think, as far as how he wants to do it. And what kills me, though, or not kills me, but it's interesting to see how people are like, he's proposing all these budget or these tax increases. What was it, 1.9 billion worth of fee increases, and there's a very much a large piece. Like, well, he's not cutting anything. It was a large part of more so like government workers were like, he's not cutting, he's wasting money, and that goes back to, I think, where people don't trust the government. And I think that if you're going to talk about fee increases, tax increases, and all this other, more revenue, because let's face it, there's new revenue, and then there's just like increased taxes, right?
What do you mean by new revenue? You talk about
marijuana, stuff like that, versus something they already tax you on, but they just increase it. And there should be a public campaign about how with government, like your money's not wasted, right? It's money well spent. And the reality of it is we haven't had a good or a level or appropriate tax base, and we need to increase it. But the general public says that Illinois is corrupt, right? You hear that all the time: corrupt, wasted money. And I think if there was a public education campaign, or a PR campaign, I should say, on how trust government, and this is what your money goes to.
Yeah.
And I think that would be an easier sell with these fees.
Well, I actually do believe the argument is there to be made for the Democrats. I try to make it here in the show, but I do believe that most people would rather see their money, and I've said this to you, heard, you know what I'm going to say, rather see their money go to cops, firefighters, teachers, than go to Lincoln Yards. I know that. I know how Chicagoans think. Okay, I've been living here since 1981, and I know that if you gave somebody a choice, will your money go for more? Hire another cop, hire another firefighter, hire another teacher, get some teacher aides, maybe help out, get some counselors or whatever, guidance counselors. They will pick the public employee, Jeff.
Yes.
Pension plans and all over the handout to the big time developer.
Contrary to what IPI and Wirepoints and some of those people say, yes, they would go towards. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's something real. You could see the person. The cop answers the call.
They're your neighbor. They're your friend. They teach your child soccer at school. Yes, exactly.
So I just feel that Democrats, in my humble opinion, not they ever listen to me and never would listen to me, should do a better job of standing up for what they believe in and not running away from it and saying, yeah, this is government. This is what government does.
I think a lot of that too goes to the pendulum effect, right? After 9/11, right, government workers were in the good spotlight. You know, it was after, there was a tragedy and people were like, oh, wow, they do give their lives and, they do dedicate their careers towards a profession. And so, it's a pendulum effect. And they were good. And then the pendulum swung back that pensions are too much, they're costly, they're they're not ineffective, but they're a strain on our governments. And so now the pendulum swung that way. And I'm happy to say that unions have done a great job of getting out there with PR. And now the pendulum, you're seeing it come back where, like you said, like people are, when it comes down to it, if you put it to them, they actually agree with spending money on, government workers, pensions, water department, those types of facilities because they know it's an investment in their city when you invest in your government workers.
Yeah, well, as I say many times, the city workers, teachers have to live in the city of Chicago. So that is a direct investment. When you hire more of them, it's a direct investment. They live in the city. They pay the property tax in the city, buy their groceries in the city, et cetera, and so
Bob
forth.
Bruno's did a survey or a study where 87 cents of every dollar paid to a city worker stays in the city, and it churns in the city and multiplies.
All right. I'm going to have to get him on the show. I'm writing that down.
Oh, he's a good guy. Yeah.
All right. Fair Work Week.
Yes.
Before we get to pensions, Fair Work Week is one of the first initiatives that Lori Lightfoot's talking about. Explain to people what that means.
They want to do it where, or instead of scheduling on the fly or instead of coming in and you come in and there's not enough work, they send you home, right? There's no pay. And I will say, I was fortunate enough. I worked at the Jewel when I was 15 years old because I lied on my application. So, I said
statute of limitations is
it's over, right?
Yeah.
I said I worked at Piggly Wiggly for 3 years and I was 15 years old, 16 years old.
Wait, was there Piggly Wiggly you must not have lived in Chicago.
No, I lied. I lied. The statute of limitations is over.
He lied. He made up figure. They'll never call Piggly Wiggly.
They'll never call Piggly Wiggly in Kentucky. So
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Man, you were a smart kid.
Yeah. So I got hired at the Jewel by Lane Tech right there at Western and Roscoe. We had call-in pay. If they called you in and you showed up, you had 4 hours minimum pay. And, mind you, I was a union, UFCW, and God bless them, and UFCW 881. So, I never really saw this aspect of it. But to see where the people, they call you in and then all of a sudden they say, oh, sorry, there's no work, go home.
Yeah.
And you just had to get childcare. And, you're seeing a lot of these jobs that a lot of people consider, startup jobs for kids. Is what the premise is. But now that's not. You're seeing older adults in these careers that used to be 16-year-old startup jobs, as well as with the predictive scheduling and stuff, where it's even at the Jewel back in the day, you get your schedule a week in advance. There's some people, hey, I need you to work tomorrow, 7 a.m. And it's trying to put an end to a lot of the craziness around scheduling and around employees, and I think it's a great thing, and it should happen.
Now, so Sue Garza, Alderman Sue Garza, who is a regular in this show, is the new chair of the committee that will be hearing it. That's a big change in the city of Chicago. She's very pro-union, very pro-labor.
Yeah, a CTU member, yeah.
A CTU member, and her husband, Raul. I know he's a big listener to this show, a big-time union member. So do you think there's going to be a lot of opposition on this front?
You'll see some opposition from the business community, and from a even keel standpoint, I can't see why they would, right? It provides them some, outlook on, when they make their schedules to know that you're coming in at 3, you're coming at 11, and, if you need to work it out amongst yourselves, I can't work at 3, you can work at 7, and you flap around. It provides more of a stability for your workers. All in all, it's a net plus. It's a value gain for a business. But trying to get them to see that, because a lot of times, I need you to come in, and they order you in. I'll say, no, actually, things change. I don't have any work. Go home. And that's just a wasted day when you have people that are working 3 jobs to make ends meet. So they're scheduling 3 variable jobs around each other. And when one says, I can't have you come in, when you already flipped your schedule from the other job, it's lost income for you, which you're just trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And it's horrible.
Well, it's really interesting to watch this one unfold, to see really how much has changed in the city of Chicago. In the past, there has been the business community, the civic community, whatever you want to call it, the Chamber of Commerce, has been very strong into opposing initiatives like this, like hikes in the minimum wage, that kind of thing. And they've always had an ear in City Hall. They'd be really curious to see. This will be a sign of how much has changed.
And I'm somewhat sympathetic to the small businessman who himself is trying to make ends meet. Right. But there's got to be a middle ground there between, the business owner and then the workers. The larger businesses who still do this, I have absolutely no sympathy for.
Absolutely.
But, it's the middle, the small business person.
I could tell you right now, Jeff Johnson, as somebody who's been married to a woman who's run a small business forever, the big boys always champion the little guys when it comes to defending something.
They're the poster child.
I'm worried about the small business. Just roll over them when it comes. So, God, if everybody really looked out for small businesses, they wouldn't have it so hard.
Exactly.
All right, now here's the Eat Your Vegetables time of the Ben Joravsky Show. Jeff Johnson, we're going to have to get into that pension issue.
Yeah.
You're our residential pension expert. All right, so let's start with the first question, and that is, what is the immediate pension obligation that Lori Lightfoot and the City Council are facing as they try to figure out
the immediate pension obligation increase for next year that they're going to have to figure into this budget to take effect January 1st to start earning the money to pay out next year is approximately $297 million for police and fire. That's the jump. Police and fire at the final year of a 5-year ramp. So they had 5 years of increased property taxes that went up straight for 5 years. This is the first year off of that ramp where an actuary, a numbers guy who I don't really like actuaries, but a numbers guy looks at it and says, okay, this is what you have to pay because this is what the number is to get to 90% in 40 years. And so that jump is approximately $297 million.
Oh, so when you say in 90% in 40 years, what does that mean?
That means that Chicago police are 24% funded. Chicago Fire Department is 19% funded. To get them on a path where the needle's going up in 40 years, to start paying the actuarial required contributions, they have to start putting in more money determined by actuaries. And so it's $297 million.
So in other words, they're trying to say that in 40 years, if you contribute this money and you keep pace, it'll be 90% funded. Yeah. And that means if everybody retired and you had to start paying money out.
This is why I don't like actuaries. They say that the day you hire a city employee, you have to have that money in the savings account in the event, Benny's 25 years old, and actuary looks at you and goes, okay, you're going to work 34 years, and your pension is going to be approximately $90,000. Yeah. And you're going to retire at age 59, and you're going to live till I think the actuarial life expectancy now is somewhere around 78 years, 79 years. Women live longer, go figure. So the total of your pension will be, I'm going to ballpark it, $2 million. So unless you have $2 million in the savings account the day they hired you, you are now $2 million unfunded pension liability.
Right.
And so that's just the actives. We have 34,000 active members that have unfunded liability. And mind you, they're paying into their pensions, 9% each check. And then you 9% also
9% taken right out.
Right out the check. Yeah, there's no, you pay 9% the entire time. And then you also
have. So if your
have
salary is $100,000, you start off, it's down to $91,000.
Yes.
Well,
right
how
off the
about
bat.
that for math? Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, there you go. You could be an actuary. And so, and then you have the retirees, which are in the end part of they're drawing out their pension for, they ballpark it. And so it puts them on a path to 90% funded. And now there's an argument that I've had with actuaries, getting back to not liking actuaries. 90%'s not exactly, in my book, a good number, right? Because if you talk to an actuary, they want pensions to be 100% funded. Dollar out, dollar in.
Yeah.
But it's a government business. They make these assumptions based off of private businesses. Like when Sears went bankrupt, they had to have their pension money in a savings account because if they went bankrupt, they would have to have enough money to pay these private sector workers their pensions for their life.
Yeah.
So with government, it goes on, right? It goes on indefinitely. You don't need 90%. You don't need 100%. And when you really put the screws to an actuary to get them to come down to a number, and I'm talking after really just almost like bullying them.
Yeah.
You get into a conversation, well, is 70% a good number? Is 60%, 80%? So they tend to 70, 80%, they'll just basically break at that point and go, yeah, whatever. But as long as you have positive money coming in, the needle's going up, and you're not, and the other thing too is you throw in a recession, you're going to see that number drop, right? We are 10 years into a bull market right now. Mm-hmm. The market's been going up. Yeah. It's going to crash sooner or later. We all know that. Yeah. It's the how bad does it crash? And, you have to take that in because you're a long-term investor. So you take the crash with the bull market. It's going to even out more so, and your pension's going to get 8 to 9% interest rates, or your interest, or, rate of return. Mm-hmm. And so, you go down a road of what's good, what's bad with 90% funded. Right? And that's the ultimate goal, I should say.
Yeah, well, ultimately, I think the goal of many people on the Republican Party in the state of Illinois is to destroy the pension program the way we have it now, and then to take away the guarantee that public employees, are maintained at a certain level. And that is really what I think this fight's about.
And what gets me here is people lose focus because the argument is they want to bring public pensions more in line with private sector pensions. That's like the kind of the mainstream here because you're that, private sector doesn't get that. Okay, fair enough. But if you look at what they did to the private sector, they broke the private sector pensions. And the private sector pensions are at near poverty levels as far as what they get. And it comes down to it's a race to the bottom, when what they want to do to public pensions is make them private instead of the reverse. They should be bumping up the private sector pensions and saying, hey, we want it because it's an investment in your community. It's an investment in your city and in your employees. And so that part gets lost on we wanted to make them private sector. Well, private sector is not working right now as far as how their retirement goes because everybody knows, you can't rely on Social Security because allegedly it's not going to be there, even though that's a myth. It's going to be there. But the money that they pay out isn't enough to live in your retirement. You're eating cans of tuna for dinner at night.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. We're not concentrating on the central problem which is how do you take care of old people? Yeah. I'm a lot closer to that than you are, Jeff. So I kind of worry about that.
I'll take care of you.
Yeah. There you go. I got my Jeff Johnson.
There's a retirement plan.
All right. So before I take a break and bring Candace into the conversation, Candace Castillo is in the studio. Is there a second obligation we should know about besides that $297 million that's right on the table right now?
Well, there's a structural budget deficit of approximately $250 million. I mean, that is something that's always been kind of, Rahm's been actually working on bringing down the structural deficit from when Daley left. I think it was $800 million, I think, was the structural deficit, and then his last-ditch effort was the parking meters. And,
oh, my God. All right, in defense of Daley, words I thought I would never say, but I feel I must say it. Mayor Daley, to bring a point, was mayor at the end of his term during a horrific recession. All right, so I always say that. All right, Rob, you think you're so great. You try governing the city of Chicago in the middle of recession.
You just defended Mayor Daley.
I defended Mayor Daley. I'm trying to be fair and all that. And,
wow. And turning over a new leaf here with a new administration.
Yeah, anyway. All right, that's Jeff Johnson. I'm Ben Joravsky. Candace Castillo's on deck. We're going to bring her on after this.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan. Hey there, producer Dennis here. Thanks for finding and listening to the brand new Ben Joravsky Show. All right, so here's how this works. The Ben Joravsky Show live streams on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Once the show is over, you can listen to the replay on our YouTube channel, or we throw it online for you to download by 4 p.m. Where can you download the Ben Joravsky Show, you may be asking yourself? Well, you may be asking yourself a fantastic question. You can find previous Ben Joravsky shows and guest interviews through several outlets. The Chicago Sun-Times online, chicago.suntimes.com, the Chicago Reader online, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, pick one. Just search for The Ben Joravsky Show. Jora, V as in victory, SKY. So, let's recap. Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Live streamed on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel and downloadable by 4 at chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcast. Yes, The Ben Joravsky Show is back. We're live and downloaded. Tell your friends and enjoy the rest of the show.
All right, today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by Green Element Resale. It's a fantastic shop located at 6241 North Broadway in Chicago. And guys, it is awesome, all right? Furniture, appliances, lamps, books, clothes, electronics. It's a thrift shop, but it's the only thrift shop in Chicago that helps bring you the Ben Joravsky Show, okay? So if you're ever on Broadway between Granville and Devon, tell them thank you. And go check out Green Element Resale, 6241 North Broadway, and find more information at greenelementresale.com. Now, this next part may be a bit biased because they're sponsors, but Green Element Resale, greatest thrift shop in the world. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Ben Joravsky, take it away.
Yes, indeed. I twisted Jeff Johnson's arm. He's sticking around, and we brought in the great Candace Castillo. She did such a great job last month, and whenever she was on here, I said, "You're coming back." And here she is. She's back in the studio. I call her a political strategist. She points out that she works for Jeanette Taylor down in the 20th Ward. Okay, she does both. But she was the quarterback for a lot of the successful campaigns of the alderman, the new alderman that Jeff Johnson's going to have to be dealing with in the city council. So I like it when all my guests meet each other, get to know each other in the Ben Joravsky Show. Before we bring on Candace, D, what you got for me?
Oh, wait, hold on. We got a phone call here. Hold on. Hello?
Yeah.
Oh. Jeff Johnson, it's a guy, Daryl from Jewel Osco. He says he needs to talk to you about some Piggly Wiggly business you were talking about earlier.
Statute of limitations.
Oh, okay. I'll let him know. I'll let him know. Statute of limitations. All right. First off, Ben, I saw this one coming here. Shout out to Jay Marie on the YouTube live stream chat. Ben and our guest, Jeff Johnson, were discussing Lori Lightfoot's mayoral runoff victory last month. Jay Marie types, so Ben drank the Lori Kool-Aid.
I knew it was coming.
Your girl.
You're a girl. I knew that was coming. Yeah.
Anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, I'd like to say this. I like what she did the first week, guys. All right, friends. I know my lefty friends out there are, they supported Tony Preckwinkle, and so it's hard sometimes to end the campaign. Campaigns go on and on. That's right. But I like the fair work week. I like the fact that she put in Scotty Wagasback as the head of the finance committee. I like the fact she took down Ed Burke, although I do think, and I'm going to ask Candace about this, I have a hard time, and I told Jeff, taking, everybody cheering. Where were all those people taking on Eddie Burke when the taking was there to be taken on? But my really waiting to see. Oh, and Miguel Devay, I'm going to ask you about Miguel Devay. She's shaking her head already. But before the test, the first test will be that Lincoln Yard lawsuit. And that's the one I've been talking about all day. So that's the one I'll be waiting for. But come on,
And then Steven says, I think Ben does this thing where he pretends to drink Kool-Aid just to rile up the listeners. Is that what you're doing? Is that what you're doing?
Are you taking sips? Just to
look at this, Steven. I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid.
That's right.
You are doing that.
I love Lori. Hold on.
Oh, my God. I knew it.
JB's my
Is
guy.
that Laurier?
The light aid.
The light aid.
All right.
Seeing the light.
All right, Lori Lover, we got to read some captions here. Real
Oh,
quick.
yes. Get ready. This is your moment.
Big thank you to everyone who has sent their captions. By the way, the caption contest is officially closed, people. So big thank you to everyone who left us their captions. Let's read the captions we have. It's posted on the top of the Ben Joravsky Show page. Go check it out. The picture begging for your caption is one of Mayor Rahm Emanuel. He's giving a speech at the podium. Standing behind him with his arms crossed with a bit of a smirk on his face is our Democratic Illinois J.B. Pritzker. All right?
The governor.
Oh, yeah. What did I say?
It's just Illinois. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Go on. I sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, that's fine. Governor J.B. Pritzker. All right, so let's check the captions we have thus far. Michael put, "Wake me when it's over." There was a guy sleeping.
I love
that. His
that.
eyes closed, sleeping in the background. All right, how about Tony? Tony put, "Oh, you couldn't stand up to Burke, but I guess Lightfoot showed you." That was J.B. Pritzker.
Oh, yeah, that is good.
All right.
I like that.
Helene says, and this is J.B. Pritzker talking, "Oh, I'm going to wipe that smirk off of your face." All right, our next caption, Chuck channeled his inner Schwarzenegger here with his caption. This is Mayor Rahm talking. Chuck captioned, "I'll be back."
I like that. I kind of like that one.
All right, we may have a winner here. Jeffrey sent us what I'm assuming are song lyrics. Jeffrey captioned, "I never saw the frowns on the jugglers and the clowns. They all did tricks for me."
Yeah. Who did that, Jeffrey?
Jeffrey.
That is a Bob Dylan song. You never saw the frowns on the jugglers and the
Please
clowns.
stop.
And the, sorry. Like a Rolling Stone.
You're about as good as Bob Dylan singing, by the way.
A lot of people think.
All right, Devin captioned, "Who got the last laugh here, folks?" And we'll do one more. Galen, our friend Galen Alcaraz, weighed in.
It's my girl.
Galen cursed on her caption. I'll clean it up. Galen put, "What can I F up next?"
Yeah. I've known Galen since the 90s. I've known Galen since the 90s.
Caption contest is closed. Our 2:30 guest, Candace Castillo, will look over all these here, and she'll pick our 3 winners. Remember, our 3 winners will get a pair of tickets to see Cirque du Soleil Volta now through July 6th at Soldier Field. Good luck to everyone who captioned.
That's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure.
That is a lot of pressure.
Hey, but you can handle it. All right.
Can you be lobbied?
I don't know.
Candace, the last time you were on the show, we were talking about what to look forward to. We've already had a meeting, one meeting in. That was yesterday, and here's the pictures on the front page of the Sun-Times of Mayor Lori Lightfoot. So what are your general thoughts of the first meeting, the first week or so of the Lori Lightfoot era?
So, as a black woman, it was very empowering to see this black woman shorter than I take on Ed Burke.
Yeah.
And really shut him down and say, "You're out of order, sit down." And he really looked very confused and bewildered because nobody dare talk to the great Alderman Ed Burke like that. Mm-hmm. So yes, that felt good. I do like the Fair Work Week ordinance. But let's get to my favorite from this week, Miguel del Valle.
All right. We got former state senator Miguel del Valle.
I absolutely love former state senator Miguel del Valle. I do. But
I knew a but was coming. Go ahead.
But constituents in the city of Chicago said that we wanted an elected school board, not a selected school board. So as much as I love him, 1, background in education is suspect. 2, he's still selected. That's not what we asked to do. And she still fought against the elected school board in Springfield. Mm-hmm. So even though we have the marijuana legislation went through, which will be excellent for us, it won't be excellent that they still did not pass elected school board in Springfield. And she was a big part of that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, for me, she gets a C- for her first week.
Because of, so in other words, A, F, C. Wow.
C-.
C-.
On a Catholic school grading scale.
Seton Hall Academy.
So she has a 77% on a Catholic school grading scale.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's break it down. All right. So the elected school board was emerged in the last, I would say, 8 years or so. When Mayor Rahm started closing schools. Mm-hmm. We've had the mayor selecting the people on the school board without any kind of input from anyone since 95 when they changed the law. In the old days, there was a little more community input from local school councils. And Lori Lightfoot she campaigned in favor of it, Candace, but then she's against it. Now, my belief, and feel free to vehemently disagree with me, is that a lot of it's personal because the person who introduced the legislation is a certain state representative, Rob Martwick, who's been on this show several times. And Rob Martwick is a gentleman who stood up face-to-face at a press conference with Lori Lightfoot. I actually think it worked totally to Lori's benefit, to tell you the truth.
Some people say that's why she...
One of the reasons.
One of the reasons right into
So do you think that she's allowing personalities to get involved in this?
Absolutely. I also think that personalities got involved with who was assigned to what committee. When that rolls all the way out, it's going to be really interesting. But personality had a lot to do with it. And that's unfair to the people of Chicago that voted for an elected school board. It's unfair, especially the black and brown communities. It's unfair to the people of Chicago. So while Lori has done some great things, yet again, a selected school board is not what we voted for.
But here, I'm gonna defend the mayor, and just along this. So hear me out on this.
Jeff, are you drinking Kool-Aid?
Yeah, here you go, Jeff.
Sorry. But here's what it comes down to, because our board, I keep saying mine, our board at the Muni Pension Fund has 5 members. The other pension funds have 8 members. Chicago Teachers Pension Fund has 13 members, right? So I think it comes down to one of the bigger issues is the 21, right? They want 21 board members. And it comes in, I think, baby steps towards, elected school board. And I think they will get an elected school board. I think the argument is over the size of the board. And I think that's the sole thing holding everything
What do you think about that?
And 21 just seems, and the whole unwieldy comment, whatever. It's going to mud things up.
What do you think about that?
So I live we just were talking about this Roseland,
not Roseland.
Roseland community. Roseland, the 9th Ward,
Area.
encompasses Pullman, I'm losing it. But Pullman, Roseland,
you got the gardens off
Rosemore,
130th.
and the gardens, right? So let's just say that we have to merge with the 19th Ward. Okay? That's Mount Greenwood and Beverly. To get that one seat. Where do you think that one seat will probably come from? The people who are more economically advantaged to run. Let's just say we have to merge with Michelle Harris's ward, which is 8. 10, which is Sue Garza, and Matt O'Shea. That person is probably going to come from Hegwish, Sue Garza, or from Beverly or Mount Greenwood, which will be a disadvantage to the black and brown people in the 8th and the 9th.
So you're saying
that what's the advantage that you think 19 has over 9? Or
let's look at the schools in 19. The schools in 19 are more diverse. And their makeup of their school council is different. And the economic advantages of the people that live in 19 versus the people that live in 8 or 9 is way beyond belief.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the other issue is that if you make the districts larger, some districts that will be swallowed up by other districts.
Exactly.
And so they won't have as much say. How many county board commissioners do we have in the city of Chicago?
Not enough.
Okay, well, some might say too many, but whatever. The point is, I actually... oh my God, they're gonna say I'm really drinking the Kool-Aid. I have been against cutting the number of city wards.
Really?
Yeah, I'm against cutting the city ward. I feel as though that
50,000 residents in each ward.
I just feel as though one of the advantages of having an alderman, that sort of makes up for the fact that they just roll over for whatever the mayor wants, is that I feel as though if the alderman does his or her job correctly, he or she will represent the constituents. So if there's a zoning, it's just why I think I'm against the move against alderman and prerogative. You can follow me on this one, Candace and Jeff. I know that's really drinking the Kool-Aid, but I'm against it because I would rather have my alderman run a zoning debate than have some bureaucrat at City Hall who I don't even know. And by the way, speaking of small businesses, you talk to some small businesses, Candace, and you ask them about the city's licensing procedure and how difficult it is to get a hold of someone at City Hall to answer your freaking question about renewing your license. So I hear what you're saying. In other words, you're saying the more districts we have for school, the more representation, communities that generally get overlooked. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. I think we need that. And the schools that are in those communities need that direct representation.
But now, we'll throw in like the African American population loss, right? Because Chicago lost a lot of when they knocked down the projects off of the Dan Ryan, certain areas of the city, to the southwest suburbs. When they a lot of it was a false promise of here's a housing voucher. When we build them back, you can come. And then they moved out there, relocated to certain areas, especially west side and then out the southwest suburbs. So we lost a lot of the African American population. So how do you adjust to these areas that are going to have larger geographic areas just to meet the population, like just to even out the population numbers?
So let's look at some place like Inglewood, which people left Inglewood because Norfolk Southern offered them money to abandon their homes and then say, oh, no, we don't want the property.
By the way,
So, and schools closed, right? So how do we do that geographic area? I have no clue. Inglewood is one of the most depressed areas in the city that it doesn't have to be because it has a lot of resources that are coming back.
College, they got the Chicago Fleet, the City Fleet.
The City Fleet will be over there. The new STEM high school will be over there. And surprisingly enough, they have some really good elementary schools over there. Richards, which is one of the few schools that you can leave with high schools you can leave with a culinary license in, is severely under-enrolled. So how will we account for those? I have no clue.
Yeah. In other words, the way they do it with the wards, in terms of the conventional wisdom with wards is that you need a majority of black people in a ward to elect a black alderman, and so you look at the boundaries. Walter Burnett's boundaries in the old days was on the north. Alderman, yeah, he's now west side. He goes out. His ward used to
Central
be around
Park.
Cabrini Green. They tore down Cabrini Green, so now they shoot him. His ward shoots out. It's like looking for black people to put in his ward.
Jeanette's ward is crazy too. You have 6 aldermen that represent Inglewood, 5 aldermen that represent back of the yards. It's insane.
All right. Now, by the way, you mentioned it's been a while since Jeanette was on the show. About 6 weeks ago, we talked a little bit when she was here about the Obama Center. Any updates on that one since Lori Lightfoot's taken office? Is the Obama Center, which is coming into your neck of the woods, right down there? It's not exactly in your ward, but it's just outside your ward, right? It's in the 5th ward. Have there any updates on that beat?
Not really, except for Leslie Harrison has said that she supports the Community Benefits Agreement ordinance, which is the biggest update. But other than that, not really. We don't have another update on the lawsuit. By hook or by crook, the Obama Presidential Library is coming. It's just making sure that the people in the community have jobs. And when we talk about small businesses, making sure that small businesses are represented in the coming businesses and it's not just the same old, and people get to stay.
All right. Yeah. And we were also talking with Jeff about the obligations that Lori Lightfoot and the city council are going to have to confront, financial obligations. Any suggestions or recommendations, Candace, you have for some of the first ways of raising money, more progressive ways? Usually, we're coming out of the Rahm years where the big idea was to ticket people with their car and impound their cars. Do you have any suggestions or ideas, any proposals from the newly elected progressive alderman?
Bring back the head tax.
Ooh, the head tax.
And that was one of the first thing that Rahm cut.
He cut.
Yeah. Bring it back. The businesses on LaSalle Street say we'll leave. They won't. We need the LaSalle Street tax to pass.
And so that goes exactly like one of the first things he cut. And then, 63 businesses, I believe, relocated to Chicago, the headquarters.
Since then, yeah.
Since he took over. And so the fear is that you risk either stopping that migration, or they'll leave, which I don't think they're going to leave.
Do you think that's a legitimate risk?
I don't think we'll stop the migration or they will leave. I think that these businesses will come, and if they want to come, they'll want to. if they come, they'll have to pay to play. It doesn't make sense that we have Fortune 500 companies in Chicago that aren't paying any taxes. Nothing. Chicago, Illinois isn't broke. Illinois is mismanaged. The same thing with Chicago. It's not broke. It's not mismanaged. We're too afraid that the rich will be just so upset with us. No, they need to pay their fair share.
All right, that's Candace Castillo. Jeff Johnson in the studio as well. When we come back, we're going to broaden it a little bit to national politics. Candace said she wants to talk a little national politics, and we'll see what her thoughts on that presidential campaign and Donald John Trump are when we return.
The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by the Northwestern Summer Writers Conference. Now in its 15th year, the 3-day conference held in Chicago features a diverse array of workshops, speakers, discussions, and readings. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/writers.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
All right, commercial break over. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. What are we doing with our pen? Mr. Joravsky, take us home.
All right, that super cool music means we're almost done with the show, but not done yet. Still got Candice Nicole Castillo. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Wait, what's your middle name?
I have none. I have no. Benny, everybody calls me
We
Benny.
should have a contest on naming Ben's middle name.
Yeah. Ben loves Lori.
That's what I was going to go for.
Ben, Lori loved your father.
Yeah. Ben, he's drinking that Kool-Aid. Hold on, guys. Oh, does the Kool-Aid taste good? It's that Laurier. All right, now listen, Candace.
Laurier.
Look, Candace does not only run campaigns of victorious aldermen. She's not only a chief of staff to a sitting alderman. She's not only defending the need to have an elected school board in the city of Chicago. She's also going to have to determine our winner of our caption contest. Right. Not a lot of pressure on her.
This is hard work.
Looks like we have our 3 winners here. Big thank you to everyone who sent their captions. Like I said, these 3 winners are going to go see Cirque du Soleil Volta at Soldier Field between now and July 6th. You work it out with them on whatever day you want to go. All right, so we have 3. Oh, I got to stop that song. Yeah, screw it. We have 3. Go ahead. What you got? Let's find out. Number 3.
Number 3.
So number 3 is Julie. Ooh. More like Smirk du Soleil.
Ah, that's Julie, a good one.
Julie, very good.
Julie.
Please stop singing. Time for number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2 is Helen. I'm going to wipe that smirk off of your face.
Boom! That's a good one.
I like that one. Yeah, that was good.
Rahm's got that smirk.
Congratulations, Helen. You got a pair of tickets to Cirque du Soleil. And finally,
number 1.
Number 1 is Chuck. I'll be back.
Nice.
I liked it. I liked it.
I like that accent.
I liked it.
You know what? Candace got that Arnold Schwarzenegger thing going.
Chuck, Julie, and Helen, congratulations to all 3. You guys are going to get a pair of tickets to Cirque du Soleil. I'm going to send you a message on Facebook. Don't be creeped out. It's just me, Dennis, from the Ben Joravsky Show, all right? I just need your info, and we'll be good.
All right, so here's the question, Candace and Jeff. You're lucky she goes first, so you're second. You got to come up. You have time to think about it. It's a question I ask absolutely everyone who walks into the studio when we start talking about national politics. All right, number 1. Democrats, impeach Trump. Yes or no? Candace, go.
Hell yes.
Okay, all right. Not even a doubt, not even a thought about it, huh? Why?
why he obstructed justice. That's a high crime. I agree with those who say this. How can I put it? I agree with Kristen Gillibrand. This is an example setting precedent. If we let him get away with doing all that he has done and not hold him accountable in any way, then it's our fault and the next president will be crazier. So, yes, and he'll keep doing stuff. I'm
with you. I'm drinking the Candace Kool-Aid. Hold on, wait now. It tastes good. All right, Jeffrey, go.
No. Politics, risk versus reward, right? You try and impeach them. It, for whatever reason, doesn't work. Going into an election, that they can use that as a rallying cry. It's a witch hunt, and see, look, they had nothing because that's what he'd use. I think the risk versus reward, it's not worth it. It's the, what's the percentage of actually impeaching him? Say 75%?
No. Oh, actually, you mean kicking him out of office?
Yes.
0% because it's the House of Representatives. Impeachment is like an indictment.
Well,
They vote to indict him, and then the trial is held in the Senate.
Yeah,
and the Senate
never.
And
Mitch McConnell will never.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell will never.
No.
I agree with that.
And so, it's too much risk,
not enough reward. Candace, your thoughts on that response?
I don't agree. I think for the overall health of the country, this experiment called democracy, we have to hold him accountable to something because he's further obstructing justice.
But he's keeping his base. The people that voted for him, they are staying. And so from just a pure political eye, not looking at the law aspect of it, because he's probably guilty, but from a political eye, he's keeping his base. And then all you have is the upside is you're going to lose people if you swing and miss.
I don't think so. You have 42% of people who he's keeping no matter what. It's not greater than 42%.
I think there's a lot of people out there that won't admit that they voted for him. A lot of our union members who privately voted for him, but publicly are just like, whatever.
Yeah. Which is why I now work in politics. Seriously. Which is why I now work in politics. I was completely disturbed by that.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you this. You were completely disturbed by what?
The amount of union households that voted for Trump. Because they voted against their own interests.
Well, I think it's worse. Well, I don't know if it's worse, but the number, and I've had this conversation so many times, maybe with you, Jeff, the number of union households that voted for Bruce Rauner in 2014. I mean, this guy is cutting your pensions.
Yep.
Something different. Change the status quo.
But I have a hard time, and I've been wrong so many times. Oh God. I said in 2016, oh my God, I'm going to bring back what I said. You know what, Jeff Johnson, I don't run away from the bad, stupid things I say. All right, 2016, I said this. I said there's no way that somebody who voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012 is going to turn around and vote for Donald Trump. No way. So Hillary Clinton is going to win the election. Now, she did win the popular vote, as I like to point out. The United States presidential is the only contest in the world where the loser gets to win. Figure that out. I'm hoping, like the Philadelphia 76ers are going to ask for a recount for losing to Toronto on that. But so I have a hard time believing that swing voters, the ones that the Democrats need to pick up to win back Wisconsin, win back Michigan, and win back Pennsylvania.
Ohio, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, well, those are the big three we got to get. We get those three. Well, I'm running the Democratic Party. The Dems get those three, they win. I have a hard time believing the swing voters are going to react to the impeachment of Donald Trump by saying, the Democrats are mean, I'm going to vote for Trump.
Look at what happened over the weekend. The only Republican congressman who says, yes, he needs to be impeached, went home and had a meeting where those who were attacking him for those comments turned around and was like, you might be right. Maybe I need to read the Mueller report. Maybe I need to rethink this. That was Michigan. I think that Hillary Clinton was a piss poor candidate. Period. And I think if we go the right way And almost all of these candidates, all of them have flaws. Almost all of them are better than she was.
All right, now that leads me to the next question. I'm going to make Jeff answer it first, and then you get time to think
This is
about
unfair.
it. I know.
Yes.
We call this the Dennis question in honor of Dennis. Dennis says, if whoever the standard bearer is for the Democratic presidency, if that person, man or woman, champions Medicare for All plan, a national health care plan in which everybody's guaranteed health insurance, that person will be elected president of the United States, that the desire for nationwide health care crosses geographical boundaries, racial boundaries, ethnic boundaries. It's something that will unite voters in Northern Illinois with voters in his beloved Southern Illinois, voters in Chicago, and voters with the suburb. That is the Dennis prediction. Do you agree or disagree with Dennis? Jeff?
I'm going to punt. I think it's all in how you package it. Yeah. Right? It's all in how you sell it, right? The Affordable Care Act was supposed to be kind of like that starting step towards that. Mm-hmm. And it turned into Obamacare. And it was a bad thing in southern parts of Illinois, the country. And so it's a matter of how you market it. And then you also have to pay for it. And, with the federal government being a zero-sum gain as far as whenever and you come up with something, you have to have some other either cuts or a new way of funding it. I don't see that being the litmus test on which way. Yeah.
All right. No. Candace, your thoughts. Do you agree or disagree with young Dennis over there?
Kinda.
Okay.
She punted too.
I'm not punting. I agree with Dennis to a certain extent. Okay. What I think, because of the states you just named, what were they? Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania?
Those are the three. If everything stays the same, you flip those three, the Dems win.
Yes. I think because of those three, and let's throw Ohio in there, because of those 4 states, healthcare, I think it's the best person who stands the firmest on the opioid epidemic is going to win.
Wow. So even
going further down.
Further
opioids.
What do you mean by that?
So Trump has promised money and different things to the opioid epidemic, and those community organizations and things of that nature who said that's why they were supporting Trump have been very disappointed. However, Bernie Sanders is speaking to that. Elizabeth Warren is speaking to that. Kirsten Gillibrand is speaking to that. A lot of these people are speaking to that, and they're going into these corners that nobody is talking to. So if they really come up with the most solid plan for the opioid epidemic and put that with healthcare, that's who's going to win this election. Because the opioid epidemic, I think, will play a bigger factor in this election than most other things people think.
Well, it could be the tipping point for these 3 states. All right, and finally, I guess you're the one who has to answer this first, our last one. So Jeff gets, thank goodness.
I'm out.
You're going to have to answer it. You just get to think about it. Now, I realize that this is not carved in stone. I realize that you might, when you come in next time, change your mind. I realize that. You could be like a flag in the wind, like me. If the election were today, Candace Castillo, who would you vote for the nomination, the Democratic nomination for president?
Elizabeth Warren.
Why?
She has been the only one. Not only has a plan for everything, but she has been the only one to talk about the mortality rate of Black women in childbirth. That's a much bigger issue. And she has a plan for a lot of these things. I like her. So I'm going with Elizabeth Warren.
Young Jeff?
Right now there's 22 candidates, I believe?
I believe there's 23. Yeah, here's my cheat sheet. I got it right here in case you want to look at it.
Well, as of today, I would throw a dart at the board. But no, if you had to narrow me down, I like Bernie, but I got to say I'd go with Uncle Joe.
Grandpa Joe, why?
His union record, even though there's some... they all have questionable, that long of a career, but his union record and what he does, his viewpoint. And I think you're going to see a focus on the middle class unions on his campaign.
All right. So if now this question will be you second, so you get to think about it. So Joe Biden, who should he pick as his running mate?
Ooh, I'd take some of the front runners if you can snap up your Elizabeth Warren, not Bernie's.
So Joe and Lizzie.
Yeah, I think that's a good ticket.
Candace.
Ooh, Elizabeth Warren's running mate. Ooh.
Jeanette Taylor.
Ooh, there you go.
Just got elected.
Job security. I like it.
Candace Castillo's no dope.
Yeah.
I'm taking care of number one.
Exactly. Take care of my boss. Job security.
Actually, no, because she just finished her first session, and yes, this is job security. Delia Ramirez.
Okay, all right.
I like it.
All right, state representative. We got to get her back in the show. No more ducking and dodging, Delia. Oh, I'm so busy in Springfield. All right, that ends Friday, I think. A lot of these state reps, Jeff, trying to get them on. I'm sorry, I'm so busy. Anyway, all right, so she ducked and dodged on that one. We'll let you go. It's hard. I thought you were going to say Joe Biden, which would have been a good answer. Well, he did it. He's a good vice president for Obama.
Did it once.
He did it once. He's good at the job.
Exactly.
Honestly, I don't think Elizabeth Warren can pick a white guy as her vice president. It would have to be a man of color or a
Kamala
woman.
Harris.
Latino, anybody?
I really like Julian Castro. I like him a lot. Do I think he has a chance? No. So maybe that's my real answer.
Well, the ticket, and I owe this to Eton Thomas. He was the one to put this out there. Jolton Joe Biden and Stacey Abrams, which is like, wow.
Not gonna happen. She said it's not gonna happen.
People say all kinds of things in politics, Candace. You know that. You said, well, that's what I said yesterday,
Yep.
I don't know. I think she's going for governor again.
Well, I hope she wins this time. She should have won the last time, for goodness sake. All right, anyway, that brings the end of the show. Candace Castillo, it's a blast having you on. Jeff Johnson, the man, knows absolutely everything about pensions. Nothing. And he did a great job. And, God, Miles Kampf-Lassin, that seems like hours ago, but he was in the show as well. Leah did a magnificent job, as always, our editor, and, of course, the man, the myth, the legend.
Oh, hey, Ben, on the live stream chat, someone gave you, we're looking for a nickname for you. Coming up with a nickname. How about Steven's suggestion? I suggest Ben Nancy Pelosi Lover Joravsky.
I do love Nancy. Candace, I'm sorry, lefties. I love you. I got this thing going for Nancy. You like Nancy? Oh, Candace admits it. I love how. Come on, say it a little louder, Candace.
I like Nancy too.
I love her, man. She's standing up to Trump, and she's doing a good job. Thank you, Candace. God. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah, the man, the myth, the legend. By the way, Candace, you know that in his hometown of Alton, they call him White Lightning? It's true.
No.
Anyway, you did a great job. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
And remember, everybody, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Once again, congratulations to our caption contest winners. Chuck, I'll be back. Julie with more like Smirk de Soleil, and Helen with that wipe that stupid smirk off your face. Congratulations. You guys are going to go see Cirque du Soleil. I'll be reaching out to you on Facebook. Once again, don't be creeped out. It's just me, producer Dennis, send you a message. See you tomorrow.